Crossover. Oh, killer crossover. Just crossover. It just crossed him over next to him.
Another victim to the crossovers. Cross him up and sit him down.
The crossover, powered by Everlevel Concrete Repair in Omaha at everlevelconcrete.com. Man, I almost didn't screw it up. First time I've ever had to do that.
It was good. It was
great job because I'm taller than everyone else that
Yes.
works at the zone, which is weird.
This is
I'm not that tall, but I just now realize everyone's short. Except Bishop's not that short, but he never has to stand here.
No. Bishop's never standing up. Michael, great to meet you. Did a great job on the air today. Very much enjoyed listening to you guys this morning. That was fun. This has been fun for me because you are experiencing life in chair number
Very
one
odd.
and standing up for the
The whole
crossover.
setup isn't designed around me, which is annoying.
I've
been here for 5 weeks and they don't have it built for me. What's going on?
Another thing is that this and this is not an insult
that chair's
to you.
less comfortable.
$1,000,000%.
I feel it in my thigh back here. It hurts.
There, you will see throughout the show that I'm constantly moving the chair, adjusting the chair, like leaning in a different way to like relieve pain from my back. This is, and I explained this to you and Michael when I came in here. It's no offense to you, but you are a bigger guy, and I feel like this setup, because it's typically sat in by smaller humans, is just not made for somebody of your size, of your height. You know,
I'm breaking barriers is what I'm doing.
And so getting multiple texts today was very funny from you.
This whole thing, the microphone.
It's the
arm
first thing
off
he said is
screen.
He's like, the microphone arm is hitting everything, and I'm like, okay, it's fine. It's
that screen was
okay.
off for half the show because the microphone arm hit the screen. And he couldn't figure it out.
It's okay. It's fine. Now I'll tell you this.
It is
right
very
now.
close.
This microphone arm is so much better than the one that we used to have.
Sure, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have its own problem. And if it's that much better, then why does a little piece at the end stink? Because you can't tighten it.
It's
enough to
okay.
have it.
It's fine. It's okay.
I'm
We
angry.
love the equipment here at 1620 The Zone.
We can do better, Mr. Desk.
We
can
love
do
our
better.
studio mic. Not supposed to say that fully, but yes,
It's out there.
it is out there. It's out there in the ether. How are you guys today?
Good. I was never really worried about it, and I knew the first one of these I wanted to do. I wanted to bring Snow in if he was willing to do it, because we have to expand the Rolodex of substitutes.
I agree.
Because I basically went from being like at times the sixth man on the zone for long stretches of years.
Yes.
To now I'm like in the starting lineup. And so I had to like bring out the bench a little bit.
I like that.
I'll be a sixth man. That's fine.
We would appreciate that. We really do need to expand the Rolodex of people who come on, because it really turned into Mike Schaefer, Austin Jacobson, and Caleb Henry. Those became the three men who would just fill in and do all of the shows, like every single show. Which I don't think Caleb ever did the 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
I never did either. I never wanted to be solo with it.
Sure.
And so I think I was only asked a couple times and just turned it down, but was largely exclusively 6 to 10 or 2 to 6.
I also, I would, when I would schedule Mike, I would like tell Mike way too quick to time. Like it would be like 3 days before like I needed a sub, and you would be like, "Oh, I'm completely booked already."
Oh, that's kind of the problem with me is like my schedule fills up without my own choosing. Many.
Is that just the life of being married?
Life of being married, life of just a child where, Snow knows this. He's got 3 kids that he's in charge of.
You have 3 kids?
Yeah, I have 3. Yep. Mm-hmm.
How old are you?
32.
Wow, you
I
look
don't
great.
look it.
No,
I don't
not at all.
Never would have guessed.
I feel every bit of it, but
You've
I
been
don't.
compared to Leo at one point, who's much older, but also, like
I looked at you and I was like, I felt a little threatened by how young he might be.
I was called. This is not a joke. I was called Miss Snow on the phone because I didn't hit puberty till I was like 17 years old.
That happened to my brother.
Yeah,
too.
I look like 5 to 7 years younger.
So that's called you're a late developer.
Yeah.
In terms of sociology terms, which is, probably didn't benefit you in grade school, but
or high school,
but definitely does benefit you as like life goes on. And typically late developing people live longer. So congratulations to you, Mr. Snell, on your potential life expectancy.
Yep.
It seems like with the NCAA, you could probably use that as a basis to get a judge to give you an injunction to get an extra year. It could be a hardship.
He's a late
We
developer.
were
I was
talking about how
good
you
at
could maybe go
literally
back
any
and play
sport.
athletics
Yeah.
and scut
We
now in a
can
different
can
way.
we retroactively medical redshirt genetics?
I mean,
Can
I
you
don't,
can you
That
can
should
you,
be a basis of an argument.
can
yeah.
you be like,
Mhm.
hey, I went to
we
college
can
for 4
pretend
years.
like you get a medical waiver because you got benched. You weren't as good as the other quarterbacks at Ferris State, so you get to play an extra year.
Have you heard about this 10 semester rule in Division II football?
No.
So this is a guy that I listened to, like he was a former coach, like coaching Ole Miss. He was explaining that D2, it's not necessarily you get X amount of years, you get 10 semesters. And so what you can do is you can have a kid come in, play a semester, then have them not go to school, right? And then have them like do whatever he needs to do in the summer, have them come back and then use that semester. So
Give everyone 5-year clock.
Exactly.
That starts as soon as they enroll on.
He was basically being like, Ferris State was going to use the 10 semester rule, so they felt like they didn't necessarily need to medical redshirt him. So dumb. This whole thing is so dumb. Just all of college sports has just made me mad so much over the last 5 years, and it's one of those things where it's like it's never going to stop at this point.
Well, I mean, the people
It's
that
just
have
not
the
going
ability
to.
to stop it have to choose that they want to step in to stop it, and that's effectively the government, which we know how that works.
Yep.
We would hate it less though if Nebraska had like literally ever benefited from
Well,
it. Nebraska has not benefited from that rule at all.
A little incorrect here, because Rink Mask is a 7th year college basketball
He's a
player.
COVID waiver, though.
COVID
Yeah,
and a
that is
4-year
true.
injury.
But I will say that we do fail to mention that this is Rink Mask's 7th year of college a little bit.
I don't think it's 7th. I
Nebraska,
think it's 6.
he's 20. No, I'm pretty sure. I'm almost positive it's 7. He's 25. So we've had now. Granted, Michael, to your point, they have not benefited nearly as much as
they should.
as everybody else has. Like there are a lot of other teams who have taken advantage of all of the rules way more than Nebraska basketball or Nebraska just sports in general has. We also we kind of failed to mention the whole European pros being able to play basketball has majorly benefited Illinois. Now, so this is so it's his 5th year of playing basketball, but it's his 7th year of being in college. So he had a red shirt in 20 or COVID whatever in 20, and then he played 3 years at Bradley. Then he played his 4th year at Nebraska. Then he had the red shirt last year, and then now this is his 5th year. So he's had 2 years of sitting out.
And so basically the COVID year and then the medical
Red
waiver
shirt.
for missing his
So
first COVID.
that's
year.
basically
He's
not
getting the COVID year twice, effectively.
basically, but that's not Nebraska benefiting from lawsuits or anything like that. That's just Nebraska
No, that's a guy who
benefiting
didn't play at all. And for a medical reason that was documented, and he didn't practice at all.
Nebraska basketball does have, though, a 7th year college basketball player, which in and of itself is just so
a
strange.
decade ago, that'd have been insane to say.
Well, another thing, though, isn't it kind of funny that the 7th year college basketball or just college athlete is the least of problems now? Just Rick Mask, if we were doing a power ranking of things that matter in college basketball, him being in his 7th year of being in college matters so much, so little to everything else that's going on.
Yeah, part of it is just the COVID year, which now we're beyond for most of these situations.
I know.
And so once you're kind of past that, then it becomes okay, if they're getting a medical waiver, what is the basis of this? The thing that's going to get weird is you have the 9-game rule that could go into effect for a red shirt. Then how is that going to be gamified to then get extra years?
Beats me.
So
give them 30 minutes, they'll figure it out.
It's funny, early on, because I
give him a
can't.
sympathetic booster judge. He'll figure it out too.
I came into media around when the COVID year things started to happen. And early on, we had reporters like yourself and Brunts and Evan Bland, all you guys, you were very in tune with COVID years and eligibility and all this. You guys were doing the math. By 2023, it just turned into everybody being I'm going to be real with you. I don't know how many years this guy has left. I have no idea. And frankly, I have no want or inclination to find out. I'm just going to go on the basis of what did the coach say? What did he say? Is he here or not? What's going on? And we went like that. And then now it's turned into, okay, just assume he's if they're trying to come back, just assume they're coming back.
Yeah, just assume he can get an injunction.
Okay. So I said that I had a good,
yeah, let's get to this.
So as Michael does not know, but you know, it's no longer football season, and so far, and that means for Matt McMaster, it's date season. Okay, because it's very hard for me to go on dates during football season. So this is like I'm single.
There's only like one day of the week where there's no football generally.
Exactly, and that one day of the week I go out with my buddies. I'm not going on dates, right? So this is like if Matt McMaster is going to get a girlfriend or find love, like this is it. This is our time. This is our
window.
This is our pocket. Okay, and so yesterday I went out on a little dart date. Okay, we went and we played darts. She said she liked darts. We went to
all right.
we played them. Now,
at first I thought you said dark date.
That's what I
was
said.
like, is that when you just go into a room and neither of you can see each other?
No.
The darkness retreat.
That'd actually be great.
That's a
I'm
second
surprised
date
that's not a
situation.
Netflix show at this point. But
Well, isn't that just blind dating?
pretty much.
Fair enough. So we go on this dart date, and I'm in a dart league on Tuesdays. Okay.
Yep.
And so I have my own darts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I was massively debating the entire time. Do I bring my own darts to a first date dart date, if you will? Because I feel like there was a part of me that was like, okay, I have my own, like she could shoot with these darts or whatever, and we can make it like out to be like, oh, we don't have to play with bar darts.
I have the answer for you.
Okay. But at the same time, I felt like if it didn't go well, she would say to her friends, this is how I think. Like, what would she say to her friends? I feel like she would say to her friends, he brought his own darts to the date.
Correct.
And so I opted to not bring the darts.
That's the right choice.
Was that the right choice?
Yes.
I don't know. So
No, that's got to be the right choice.
I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Okay.
Because there's like levels to this.
Fair enough.
Like it's not like you went to Top Golf and showed up and put golf shoes on and brought your own clothes.
Good point.
So like, bringing your own darts, because we've all been to bars, we've all played darts. Like sometimes you can end up with really crappy darts and tips and everything.
That's what I was thinking. Now I knew the bar that I was going to.
Some of it is dependent on and how well you would know the personality of the person.
See,
too.
I didn't really.
Now, Shelby and I, like our third date, we went bowling.
Okay.
And she was in a like bowling league, had her own bowling ball, showed up with, the shoes and everything. And I've come to learn that it was never going to be because it's economical.
Sure.
She wasn't going to pay for shoes when she already owned shoes.
That's not the case with darts.
So,
not the case with darts.
You don't have to pay for the darts. So that is a difference.
I do agree that if this was like the fourth date and it was well established that I had,
she had a window into who you were.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
And like to your point, like if it was known that I was in a dart league and had my own darts and this was something that I did, that I could bring the darts. But this is, and I'll just full transparency, was a Hinge date. Okay. So this was an app date.
Okay.
And I just, even more reason at this point to not shell out
would
here.
have been even better if you would have brought your own darts and then gifted her a new set of darts.
No.
Ooh.
God, that would be
It's
way
like a
too
rose
much.
from The Bachelor.
That
I
would have been
choose you for our
incredible.
second date.
But like,
It's
I
just
don't
a
do
dart.
this often, but I'm presenting you with darts on the first.
Was she an actual, like, was
No.
it a, she did
was
not
not.
play darts?
No,
Okay.
she was
Yeah.
not.
I've
She
been on a
was-
dart date before, and
Does that matter to you and you assessing these things?
No.
Okay.
No. Like,
I couldn't tell because the way that you sort of said it, I was like, well,
it was a date framed around darts. It sounded like an important part of
it was a date framed around drinks.
Yeah,
Okay.
of course.
That's what it was mainly framed around.
darts is framed around drink.
Yes.
That's a good point.
Rarely are you just playing darts and drinks aren't involved.
I used to bartend.
I don't think I've ever been
Yeah.
to a bar and played darts.
I used
and
to
there
bartend
wasn't-
all over downtown, and if somebody were to come in and just play darts and not have like a beer or something, it would be concerning to me.
Yeah. You're weird.
It would be strange.
You'd be immediately on
Just
edge.
get
like,
a
who is
dartboard
this
at your
guy?
house if you're gonna do that, because
That'd be way more economical.
I would flag them immediately and be like, okay, we got to watch this.
Also,
guy.
too, first off, I already liked Shields before I came here to Omaha, but now I find myself going to Shields at Village Point twice a week and just walking around and
Eating the fudge.
and
right
yeah,
in the
and
beer.
and having like a coffee and like hanging out there and just like
You done a Shields date?
no, I haven't, but I think that sounds incredible. I would have so much fun. Shields has like a better shoe selection than Foot Locker.
Yeah, no, Shields is great, but the
Shields is
surrounding
insane.
area is getting around in that area.
Yeah,
of
so
town
that's my
is
whole thing is
horrible.
like you have to turn right on 168th into this area of humanity that I don't want.
Yeah, I remember when they first built that, they had a curfew for people under like 18.
Wait,
they had to leave at like 7 o'clock.
Wait, what? Is that a bad area over there?
It was just Village Point had too many kids hanging around it.
Well, that makes sense.
So they made kids go home at like 7 or 8 o'clock. So we'd all get in our cars.
And dads, and we don't want to spend time around.
I don't like people very much.
Cars.
Like
I like that, Michael.
Like generally
in
speaking,
and out of
I like
places.
I like people at certain points in the day.
Yeah.
Like it varies dependent.
Which hour of the day does Matt like people the most?
Probably like 7.
I was thinking like 2 a.m. at the end of the ball.
Yeah.
No. 7 p.m. to 7.
Come on, anybody.
7 p.m. to 10 p.m. probably peak meeting Matt hours.
Okay.
The worst time to meet Matt would probably be 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock
a.m.
p.m.
Oh, okay.
I'm in bed from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. But 3 p.m. because I'm like, I just finished the show. I'm tired. I'm like, I've been
work context.
I've been talking for 4 hours.
You just want to
at
sit
this
in
point.
silence.
A little bit, yeah. I want to like decompress. I've had to have this conversation with some of my friends, like in terms of them calling me, and like I've had to be like, I love you. I love you. It's no offense to you. I care deeply about you. I just don't want to talk to anybody right now, let alone, and then like you have to do the pageantry and ask the questions and stuff like that. Like, cause it's not a lot of my phone calls with my friends now I've turned into catching up and not shooting the S, which is kind of annoying. So that's like, there's probably only like two friends consistently I call that I don't have to do the rundown anymore.
I think about this now, and I don't know that I would even have a chance to decompress with just the way my schedule is, and then just what the expectations.
Yeah. I think that's why marriage scares me.
Wait till you have kids too.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm deeply fearful of that. Because you're right. You cannot decompress. You cannot come home and be like
something.
Sorry, can't
tell a
do it
2-month-old that you're a little bit overwhelmed and see what they do. Yeah,
not gonna happen.
It's not
what
great.
You do though, and I'm sure Snow can speak to this too. When there is like that time that's just carved out and it's just you, and you can either sit in silence or sometimes I'll volunteer to go run an errand that I know is like a 30-minute drive because I know in that 30-minute drive it's just an audiobook or just
I'm errands guy now. Always. I will run every errand my wife wants me to run. If people are over for like entertaining people, she'll be like, "Oh, we forgot something." First one to raise my hand. Get out of the house.
It's like a strategy. It
is 100%.
I watched my dad do it, and I now understand why.
Yep.
So very early on, I could tell I like you, and I feel like we would be friends. So I'll just say this in complete confidence here. That sounds a little, and both of you are saying this, sounds a little depressing. Okay.
I love my life.
Just from my perspective, as a single male, 2 married men with kids admitting that they actively run errands to find peace and quiet. 23.
You'll understand.
See what? Yeah,
I know. Come on now.
Yeah. When I was 23, I was probably very similar to what you're experiencing right now, and my 23-year-old self looking at my 32-year-old self would be like,
would be disgusted.
That's disgusting. It's the happiest I've ever been. How dare you be happy with children?
I know. I'm not saying that. And I do, and I will admit, I'm not acting as if I'm Mr. Happiness right now either. It's just the thought process of like the happy moments of my life in the future will be running errands is a little.
It's not that they're the happiest. They're just the ones where you are most appreciative of the silence.
Yes,
fair enough.
The small modicum of control that you get to exert.
Your vernacular is incredible. Every time we do a crossover, I hear a word out of your mouth that I haven't heard in some time. Modicum. That's a great one.
Read and I write, I guess. I don't know. It's not like I'm not like trying to consciously work certain words in.
I did lie to this girl on the date yesterday.
You told her you knew what a word meant?
No. I told her, so Project Hail Mary is a book.
Oh, yeah.
A movie.
I just read it. Great book.
So I listened to it. That's what
I did as well.
Okay,
yeah.
But
Ray Porter, excellent narration.
Ray Porter did a great job.
Yeah.
She read the book.
That's what I did.
And I didn't admit to listening to.
Do you admit audiobooks? Like when people ask what's the last book you've read, that would technically be it. But I
count it.
Okay.
Does that count as reading?
Yeah,
a book?
I'd say it counts.
I personally don't think so. But yeah, well, because you listened.
Yeah.
You're experiencing the book through senses.
But isn't there some sort of like?
But you're not reading. Reading is looking. This is reading. Basketball is having a historic season. Softball has broke. Like that's reading, right?
You're processing information.
No. I'm looking at the words and I'm saying what I see on the page.
That is doing is processing information through your eyes.
Yeah,
You're processing information through your ears.
Yeah, that's different.
Your
those
eyes
are two
aren't
different.
doing any extra work that your ears aren't doing.
But those are two different mediums. They're two different mediums.
But you're still experiencing the book.
You're using different organs to do certain things. I agree with you that I could still, if the conversation is, can you still have a conversation about a book regardless of?
Sure.
Of course you can. It does not matter, right? Which is why I lied to this girl yesterday because it did not matter whether
Seems
or
like
not
you're ashamed of listening to the book.
a little bit. Yeah.
I don't say I read it either because I feel weird saying I read the book when I didn't read the book.
But I didn't want to do the whole explanation thing of like I listened to it, I didn't read it. I just told her that I read it. And then I acted as if I'm a reader. Like I told her that I'm reading a book right now.
See,
and I'm not reading a book. I'm listening to a book right now.
Too much agreeing going on over here. At my own expense. It's like being you when Connor and I are
I've
here.
had this
a
thought in my
million
head.
percent. Now
I don't
you know.
like it.
Isn't it great when the shoe's on the other foot?
It's not great. No, I don't.
The bit between Happer and Schaefer is that they agree with 80% of what I said.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
probably high. But.
No, more in the context of I will say a sentence, okay, and they will agree with 80% of that specific sentence, but they will do their best to take that 20%.
Well, how wrong is the 20%
and break? And not it's a word. We're literally talking about a singular word or a phrase or like
sometimes
a correction.
It's a general concept or the whole idea.
So like I said that I didn't like gray baseball jerseys except for like a couple of teams.
Was Happer. That was not as me.
But then Schaefer was like, your correct sentence would have been you don't like the slate gray. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. I think I'm just communicating. I don't love a certain shade.
Trying to drill down on what it is.
This is you have to be very specific in this medium. People are listening.
I know. It's one of the lessons
I guess you're over here. I don't need to be as specific when I'm explaining what I've read or not read or experienced or not.
But you didn't. It's not whether or not the specificities of what you are experiencing. It's more so whether or not you read it or listened to it.
I don't see any difference for it.
There's
in large part because I feel like my comprehension of each is the same. So I don't think I've sacrificed anything by listening to it. Where and largely the only way that I'm going to get the book is if I listen to it.
Do book people like real book people? Like
great point.
Do they like if I were like I read the book and would they be like no you didn't? I read.
Are
the
they
book.
are they snots about it?
Yeah.
Are they
need to open and close?
Okay, so here's the thing. He's on your side.
It's
like
an experience.
But I think he's saying it because he likes that I'm now enjoying books.
Well,
he wants
to
encourage.
Yep.
He
largely what I would be going for is the idea that anyone that is putting the effort in to experience a book in 2026 does not need to hurdle a needless bar of whether they saw it with their eyes or heard it with their ears.
I wouldn't have read it though otherwise.
And I think that's the critical thing. I listen to a lot of books because my opportunity to, or when I was out walking the dog or walking with the kid.
Yeah.
Or, which doesn't say a great thing about me as a dad that I'm listening to books while I'm out with my kid, but we're going to ignore that.
You're not talking to your son.
Well, this was when he was like young. And,
well, he still is young.
When he could not really do it.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
When, you're a parent when your child is 4 months old and they can't do anything, but you're really just a caretaker.
Yeah.
You're just there to make sure nothing else happens. That's really all it is.
It's a good point.
And so you're more of a parent now when they can physically say things and do things and you have to
admonish
them and you're getting yelled your first name because they picked that up.
I love that you're not dad or dada or anything.
No, I mean, it is like
you are
80% of the time, but 20% of the time, but it's the tone.
Yes.
It's the he's picked it up from my wife that when she's mad at me, and so when he's mad at me, it's Mike.
It's so good.
And it shocks me every time. He did it the other day and she was sitting right there and she starts laughing, which definitely helps.
Yep.
I would have been a great speed skater. There is no doubt about it that I would not made the Olympic level speed skating, but I would have.
Was this not a thing in Chicago? Could you not have
No.
competed in speed skating?
No, not really.
Did you ever go up to Tranquility up here back in the day and go around the rink as fast as you could? Because I thought I was a speed skater for the first 7 times I went ice skating out there, and those were dates often too.
I knew that skating was just an avenue for me to busting my chin.
Yeah.
So I hated skating.
I don't do skate dates because I can skate, and I don't want to be a learn to skate instructor.
You can't skate.
I can.
You don't want to reveal that you can do it.
And you went on a dart date.
Yeah, but I'm still not great at darts. I played hockey for 13 years.
Okay.
So it would not necessarily be a date as much as it would be a learn to skate instructor.
And what if they came from a background where they skated?
Then
and
that's
you both
great.
like skating.
Then that'd be fun.
What if they suggested it to you and you don't know what their level is, and you're over here being inside your head on it instead of being like, oh, it's a date opportunity. Let's just go on a date.
Thank you for being my therapist.
Are you an overthinker when it comes to planning dates and stuff like that?
No.
That's why he needs Happer
No.
and I to
God.
cut through his socks.
God, no. I'm not.
I'm just.
What do you
it
mean?
Sounds like it.
You overanalyze everything.
Okay. First, from a sport and talking perspective. I mean, from a date perspective,
That's
I literally
90% of how I know
ask John
you.
Ask John
Your
Bishop. Ask John
whole
Bishop.
basis for this crossover was: should I bring my darts to a
Okay,
dart
but
date?
that
always
is that
the
not
sport.
a legitimate question?
It
though?
No,
is
you
talking.
should not.
No,
You're
and-
overthinking it.
But no, I mean, I don't think I was overthinking it at all. I have darts. You don't know how the
How
the
long
bar
did you think
darts-
about it for?
Like 10 minutes.
Okay,
I picked them up and I was like, you know what? Probably
Look
not the
down,
best idea. Yeah, probably not the
Yeah.
best
Did you
idea.
look and
to
see if
bring
they
them.
were cool? Was there an element of if these look cool?
My
maybe it'll
darts
help
are
you?
cool. I do have nice darts.
Yeah.
Because I went to Shields and I bought them there. And I was
How much does a set of nice darts cost?
$17.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah.
That's
that's.
And then you
doable.
got to
I
buy.
thought you were paying like 38.
No,
bucks
hell
for
no, hell
steel
no.
But then you got to
tip darts.
replace the tips every.
I did do that. So I have steel tips and soft and plastic.
Are you a cork board or a
No,
plastic board?
We play on plastic. My
Yeah.
buddies play
Mhm.
on cork. My league plays on plastic. So
Mhm.
I have both. So when I play with my buddies, I bring the steel tip, and when I play league, I
I
play
mean,
the
most
plastic
bars
tip.
are going to have plastic.
Yep.
Because cork would be just a pain to replace.
There are a couple bars where I grew up that have cork boards,
Sure.
which is pretty cool. But
With a
around,
chalkboard right next to them where you
Yeah.
keep the score and
yeah,
everything. Oh,
and you don't
yeah.
have to put the dollar in
Yep.
anything like that. No, I mean, ask John Bishop. Like John Bishop would completely disagree with you that I overthink these dates because there's been multiple times where, like, I'm 4 hours away from going out and I don't know where we're going. But we are in the first date cycle.
The version of you that I am mostly aware of, the sports and talking version of you,
is
is constant overthinking.
yes.
So I can only respond to that version.
No, date Matt is very different than sport Matt. Date Matt isn't looking where the safeties are.
I like to imagine Date Matt has the sweater draped over his shoulders, and
Yeah.
boat shoes on,
Dude, if Josh,
his hair slicked back.
if producer Josh were here today, he would have a date Matt graphic up and moving right now.
He would.
He would.
I am not
he would-
nearly as talented.
He would. No, it's okay, Peter. It's not your job. But
What
like
kind of music does Date Matt listen to?
Bob Seger.
There you
That
go.
was quick.
He's just listening to Night Moves over and over.
Or turn the page.
There we go.
Mhm.
Or Fire Lake. Fire Lake is one of the best bar songs. So there you go. All righty, boys. Michael,
Nice
it was
to meet
great
you.
meeting you.
Yep.
Michael, it was great hosting with you. That was the crossover powered by Everlevel Concrete Repair in Omaha at everlevelconcrete.com. Middays with Matt coming up next here on 1620 The Zone.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're gonna hurt some people.
Whose car are we gonna take?
I have a lot of things I want to get off my chest.
That's an absolutely horse crap call. Make room for Daddy. But they are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
Chicago is.
This is Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone.
Middays with Matt live here on 1620 The Zone. Matt McMaster in for Josh Hodson today is Mr. Peter Krenzer. Pete,
howdy.
How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Doing good. We're going to cut the intro short here. You want to keep the pot up a little bit here? We have breaking news.
We have breaking news already?
Tom Pelissero reports the Dolphins are releasing 8-time Pro Bowl wide receiver Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill, Cheetah, who was traded from the Kansas City Chiefs a couple of seasons ago to the Miami Dolphins, who had a historic season with the Dolphins in actually his first 2 seasons. The Dolphins were incredible, is being released from the team. This comes through a combination of injuries and obviously just being unhappy with the situation in Miami, the fact that they're not winning. Secondly, the fact that Tua Tagovailoa just did not improve and got worse as Tyreek Hill's time at Miami had gone on. And at this point, this was something that was, basically written at this point. I think we all knew it was going to happen. But Tyreek Hill officially now no longer on the Miami Dolphins. We will see what Hill's market will look like in the NFL. Look, this is still a guy that is fast. He's still at his peak, one of the better wide receivers in the league. In his age 31 season.
Yeah, I was going to say, I just looked up 31. He's got some years.
Well,
he could play a few more.
And we will see here because, he's coming off of injury.
Yeah, that's the fact. That's the big factor.
When you're coming off of not only just a knee injury, but an injury, but a ACL tear, right?
And in the back half of the year.
Yeah, like it's one of those things where what is Tyreek Hill going to be? Right? Like what is he going to look like coming off of an ACL injury? What is he going to come off of come off of a 31-year-old recovering from a pretty bad knee injury? Now, granted, seems like ACLs are a flash in the pan now compared to what they used to be. I remember, 15 years ago, you tore your ACL. It was almost like a death wish. It was almost like your career was over. Nowadays, you have people who are coming back from it in 8-9 months recovery on top of Olympic athletes tearing their ACL
and then
going,
saying, let's do it anyway.
Yeah. And Lindsey Vonn, probably not the greatest example
after
considering everything that happened. But, this is a guy that still is only 2 years removed from being a first team All-Pro in the NFL. Is only 2 seasons removed from having 1,800 receiving yards and 13 touchdowns. And so it's one of those instances where, is Tyreek Hill peak Cheetah? No. Is Tyreek Hill still going to be a NFL Hall of Famer? Is Tyreek Hill still somebody who can bring value to a franchise and worth a flyer? Absolutely. Does he get a long contract? No. But we will kind of see what the market is for Mr. Tyreek Hill. It'll be interesting. Does Kansas City try and come back around and bring Tyreek back to the Chiefs? It'll be a really interesting offseason for the Kansas City Chiefs in general, just considering how they're going to handle the situation of Patrick Mahomes obviously going to be out for an extended period of time and almost not more than likely, almost guarantee that he won't begin the year as the Chiefs quarterback and hopefully will come back to the Chiefs at some point in the season. But we have breaking news to start the show. Tyreek Hill no longer a Miami Dolphin. We will see what the market looks like for him as time goes on. All righty. Let's preview the show here, Peter Krenzer. We had a fun weekend. We are officially in random sports season. This is one of the best times.
We're in the thick of it.
We are, it's always nice, and this year in particular, right? Because we have the Olympics and we have the World Cup. But football season's over. People are still mourning that. People are still upset that they can't watch the Carolina Panthers take on the Arizona Cardinals on a Thursday night at 7:00. We are still very upset that we can't watch a noon slate that has 4 blowouts and 3 fairly close games. But this weekend was kind of the ultimate showing of we are in random sports season and sports are very fun. The Pebble Beach Pro-Am took place. That was a great tournament. Colin Morikawa pulls it out there at Pebble Beach. Very special win for Colin. The Daytona 500, which was kind of a snooze fest for the first 3 hours.
I didn't catch
race.
Most of it, but I did.
The ending was great.
I saw the interesting part.
The final lap, and for people who didn't know, the final lap of Daytona is always just a shootout, and we've had now a couple years in a row where it just comes down to don't wreck to the wreck. Like
just basically.
I mean, that's how
the last car standing.
Well, that's how Byron won it. The last 2 years, and then that's how Reddick won it yesterday. But it was snooze fest first 3 hours, and then the last 25 laps when they started coming in and had to pit in different cycles were a ton of fun. But then the Olympics going on and being able to watch USA hockey. The women are currently playing right now in the quarterfinal game against Sweden. They're up 1-0. This is one of the better challenges that USA women's hockey will have. Sweden 5-0 coming into this game against the USA.
I would say this is probably
and
their
they just
stiffest
they almost
competition.
well, I mean, yeah, Sweden's good, and because after you beat the brakes off of Canada,
yeah, who's the other semi? Canada, and I'd have to look.
I don't know either, but that's going on. So we are in peak random sport season, but we're also in peak college basketball season. We'll talk about Nebraska basketball after their win over Northwestern on Saturday. We'll also talk about Creighton basketball after their loss to Villanova at home Saturday. I have a prompt for both Creighton fans and Nebraska fans. We're going to do that at 12. I'm going to give you this prompt, and I want to get your emails in. I want to get your calls in. I want to get your texts in because I'm curious as to what both sides of the aisle of basketball might believe here in terms of their opinions on their teams. We're also going to talk about the health of Nebraska athletics overall. I don't know if you saw baseball started off their season 3-0. They currently play today against the Stanford Cardinal at 2:00. That'll be an interesting matchup. We'll see if they can begin the year 4-0. They definitely have a couple of tougher matchups down the line that we'll really find out what the makeup of this team is, but still a very good start for Nebraska baseball. Great start for Nebraska softball. They lost on Friday to Tennessee. Carlin Pickens of Tennessee, one of the best pitchers in the country, seems to have the number of Nebraska softball, but Nebraska softball has the number of whoever is the number one team in the country.
Don't be number one and play Nebraska.
One does simply not have the number one overall ranking and beat Nebraska. Jordy Fromm and the gang end up defeating Texas Tech 3-2 over the weekend. Their second win over the number one ranked team in the country. Their first came in the weekend prior when they defeated Texas. So a big win for Nebraska softball. We'll just talk about the overall health of Nebraska athletics, but why it doesn't get as much attention as maybe it should. And there's one team and one reason why, and I think everybody can kind of put that together from how I'm displaying it. We'll also talk about Jerome Tang. Tough. Tang came in his first year in Kansas State and made the Elite Eight. And I think people around the country looked at a guy like Jerome Tang and said, wow, like this is what the NIL era can do for you. This is what the transfer portal era can do for you. Look, he's brought in all these different pieces from across the country, and Kansas State has turned it around. I think they went 26-10 or something like that. Got to the final 8 teams in the NCAA tournament. The outlook and optimism were incredibly high in Manhattan about the future of their basketball program after the first year of Jerome Tang. And I think that his tenure has proven what happens when you consistently swing and miss in the portal. If you are just consistently having a healthy budget and taking a big hack at bringing in high quality talent and using a lot of booster and donor and athletic dollar money, and it doesn't turn into wins, this is what is going to happen to you. And that is a swift firing. But the details of the firing are incredibly interesting considering the fact that Kansas State owes Jerome Tang $18 million. It's actually, to be more specific, Peter Krenzer, $18.7 million.
Yeah, we're on the north side we're closer to 19 than 18, I think.
Well, here's the thing. They're firing him with cause. And now
get ready for this thing to drag a little bit. It's going to be interesting.
It reminds me of Michael Scott when he wants to fire Toby. And they say, Michael, you have to fire Toby. And he's like, I'm firing Toby. Well, you have to do it with cause. And Michael goes, It's because I hate him. And it's because I can't stand him. And that's a little bit more fine-tuned with why Mr. Tang is being fired. And the specifics before we really dive into it later in the show is it's because he said some very mean things about his team, and Kansas State has kind of flipped a clause around in their contract that says if you do anything embarrassing to the to K-State, that is cause for termination. And so that is what they're saying. They're basically saying because Jerome Tang was mean at his press conference and said some rude things about his players,
took names off jerseys.
It caused embarrassment for people, and so therefore he must get fired. So we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about the NBA All-Star game just a little bit, not a ton. It was fun. I
enjoyed it.
I had, yeah.
We'll get into it later, but I enjoyed it.
What's the opposite of rose-tinted glasses?
Because
that's how I feel about the NBA right now. I feel like I just watch everything with a bit of like skepticism, and I watch the NBA with a side eye a little bit, and I doubt a lot of what they do because they've just done so much over the last couple of years to solve certain problems, and it just never seems like they've gotten to the right answer, right? I mean, like they said, all right, we need more teams in the playoff. Oh, we're going to do the play-in tournament. Now the play-in tournament, we kind of laugh at it. We joke about it. No one really cares about it. Oh, we need more excitement during the regular season. Let's do the in-season tournament. I think that it just kind of exists. Like nobody's really freaking out about the in-season tournament. I think most casual NBA fans would have a difficult time telling you who won the NBA in-season tournament, right? And now we have this whole tanking problem, and we've had this, load management problem, and we've had this award limit, and there's just all of these different things that have gone on in the NBA the last 10 years at this point that have just not been solved. And the All-Star game is at closer to the top of the list of people, what they have gripes about. But I thought that yesterday was a pretty decent step in the right direction and a great night for Victor Wembanyama, who actually seemed like he gave a damn about the game and it made other people give a damn, and he set the tone. Yeah. And, he got a lot of shout outs from players.
Visibly disappointed when they lost.
And I love it,
I enjoyed it.
And that is a guy, Victor Wembanyama is going to be great for basketball because number one, he's a freak and he's incredible to watch. But secondly, him being from France and wanting to win a gold medal more than anything, and him actively caring about defeating American basketball players will be something that kind of stokes the fire and lights a flame in some of these American players in the NBA, which I think will be a positive thing for the league. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in the NBA. No more strike zone on TV on MLB TV, Peter Krenzer. How do you feel about that?
I have mixed feelings on it.
I have mixed feelings too. I'm incredible.
Not specifically one way or the other.
This, a lot of people have opinions on this. A lot of people feel a certain way about the fact that we're no longer going to have that, thinned out box on your screen to see what's a strike and what's a ball and whether or not the umpires got it right. And we'll talk about the specific reasons as to why they're deciding to no longer broadcast that. But it's one of those things where it's like, who would have thought that just a tiny little box on a TV screen would bring a ton of conversation and opinion on,
when did
the MLB and their new rules.
They started doing that.
Oh God, I don't know when this. I want to say it was after 2016.
I think it was like 2015-ish, 16-ish.
That might have. Now, I don't know when it started where maybe you're right. It initially started on like Sunday Night Baseball in like 2015.
It was probably on one of those primetime ones.
It probably started there. I don't know when it became the norm every single game for there to be a strike zone on the TV. But they've decided that they're no longer going to do that. And so we'll talk about that and people's opinions on it as the USA women score another goal against Sweden. That makes it 2-0. They're playing fast right now. So we got a loaded show. Coming up next, though, it was a fun week of college basketball. We'll break down where do we stand in the CBB. We'll give you a little bracket update here. We'll give you a net ranking update. Oh, Taylor Heisey scored. Hell yeah. The former Minnesota Golden Gopher, number 27. USA Hockey. Nice little 1-2 over the left block. Beautiful stuff. I mean, it's just great hockey. These women, man, they just play great hockey. I mean, that was just smooth. So USA women, wagon, added to the graphic. Coming up next, though, we talk a little college basketball here on Middays with Matt.
Now, back to Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone.
Hey, if you want to get on the action today on Middays with Matt, share your opinions. 402-951-1620 is the number to call in. That's the Prairie Flower Casino hotline. Prairie Flower Casino. Play longer, win more. You can also text in at that same number, 402-951-1620. We're going to have you email into the Equitable Bank inbox if you so choose. Heading up in our next segment, I'll give you a prompt about Nebraska basketball if you're an Oscar fan, and a prompt about Creighton basketball if you're a Blue Jay fan. Have a little fun discussion about that and the future of the two teams, one of them in the postseason and one of them probably more so about the offseason and beyond. You can reach us at Matt at 1620 The Zone and Peter at 1620 The Zone. Is that what you are, Peter?
I'm at _ Peter Krenzer.
Okay, there you go. Peter _
Krenzer.
Peter _ Krenzer.
Yes.
1620thezone.com. That is the Equitable Bank inbox. Equitable Bank, they take banking personally, and they always pick up on the first ring. Old man Doug, shout out. Old man Doug called in to the morning show today and heard him grilling Mr. Michael Snow about whether or not he was a J-sker. A classic old man Doug question, a tale as old as time, as Doug must know what side of the aisle you sit on when it comes to your relationship between the Creighton Blue Jays and the Nebraska Cornhuskers. So maybe we get a couple J-sker emails when I go ahead and ask our prompts about the future of those teams. Let's go ahead and talk about college basketball over the weekend. It was a fun one indeed. The AP poll will come out at 12 p.m. today. Michigan is sure to be ranked number 1 in today's AP poll. It is the first time. Peter Krenzer, can you guess the last time that Michigan basketball was ranked as the number 1 team in the country? The last time.
Because are we not counting any time that might have been preseason, just like in season number one?
The last time they were number 1 overall.
Let's see. I mean, it would probably have to be when Trey Burke was playing.
Nope, 1992, the Fab Five, baby. That
really?
was the last time.
That was the last time. Holy cow!
34 years.
Never would have guessed it.
Since Michigan was the number 1 team in the country. They will sure to be ranked number 1 today after Arizona lost to Texas Tech over the weekend. 31 points for JT Toppin, one of the best players in the country for the Red Raiders.
Crazy good game.
Things are heating up, Peter Krenzer, in the Big 12.
Spicy.
This is something that Matt McFutures does have money on. Okay, I have gambled who I think will be the winner of the Big 10 regular season, so I have been all eyes on it. Arizona currently 10-2. They're in second place. Houston and Kelvin Sampson, man. It's funny, Sampson very, very, I guess, infamously at this point said about a week and a half ago that he didn't have any money and that Houston didn't have any money. Hasn't really mattered because they're at the top of the heap in the Big 12, one of the best teams in the country, currently ranked number 3 overall. They'll probably go up to number 2 overall, but we got to realize Texas Tech, we'll see how they move up in the standings. They were 16 in the last AP poll, but we have to remind ourselves they've defeated Arizona and Houston, the 2 top teams in the Big 12. So Texas Tech kind of all or nothing in a way this year for the Red Raiders, who have 2 of the best wins in the country so far, but also have 6 losses, one including to Colorado and one to Arkansas as well. The Colorado one definitely more baffling at this point, as the Buffaloes are only 14-12 and 4-9. Or sorry, they have a loss against UCF. UCF still tournament team potentially. Definitely, though, more of a middling team in the Big 12. But anyway, the Big 12 is heating up. Iowa State picked up a big win over the weekend. They went ahead and defeated Kansas, who had a 9-game win streak. And they absolutely crushed Kansas in that game
quite easily.
Yeah, and a big game tonight between Iowa State and Houston. That is going to be on 8 o'clock on ESPN. I'm sure you will have that on your what to watch. Houston actually a 2.5-point underdog, as that one will be in Ames at the Hilton Coliseum. So that is a big game tonight. Michigan, like I mentioned, will be the number 1 overall team more than likely in this upcoming AP poll. We'll see where the Nebraska Cornhuskers rank. In that one, probably won't have too much movement just because you only beat Northwestern. Granted, they did so convincingly, but at the same time, Northwestern definitely one of the lower teams in the country. Big win for Illinois against Indiana. Indiana definitely a team that I wouldn't say that Indiana is fully on the bubble, they're kind of in the 8 to 9 seed range, and there are definitely teams like UCLA and Santa Clara and Texas and San Diego State is another one you could add to that are like bubble teams. But still, a 20-point loss yesterday for Indiana against Illinois. Champaign just absolutely routed the Hoosiers at home. Needed that one for Illinois, considering the fact that they've had some tough losses in back-to-back games against Michigan State and Wisconsin. So David Merkovich, one of the ringers from across the pond that Brad Underwood has brought in, the Balkan Brad, if you will, he had 25 points yesterday. Keaton Wagler also had 18, the superstar freshman, turning the faucet on for the Illini. Florida had a big win over the weekend against Kentucky. That game was a little closer. I mean, they had that game firmly in hand for about 30 minutes. It ended up being a 9-point victory. I'll say this. I mean, Florida last year, off of the strength of Walter Clayton Jr., but also just their physicality down low, was able to win the national championship. Losing Clayton Jr. to the NBA has definitely been, less than ideal for Florida, who definitely needs some more help in the backcourt. But they're getting that help in the form of Xavier Lee. He had 22 points for the Gators in their win over Kentucky. They've won 5 in a row, and they've only had one loss since January 6th. And so the SEC, we did mention this a little bit ago. They had 11 teams in the top 50 in the net ranking, and the highest team was 12th. They're starting to improve a little bit. Like Vanderbilt is getting their lick back. Like they're kind of finding their feet after losing 3 games in a row. You still got some teams who are still very competitive and who are trending in the right direction, Texas A&M being one of them. But Florida has definitely found their stride in the month of January, in the month of Florida, and definitely trending toward being a contender to repeat. I still wouldn't put Florida on the Michigan, Duke, Houston level. And I'll still throw in Arizona in that regard as well. But they're definitely trending in the right direction. Florida currently on the 3-seed line. Listen to this 3-seed line, Peter Krudzer. Kansas, Nebraska, Michigan State, Florida. That is a heavy 3-seed.
That is.
And then you got Houston, Illinois, Iowa State, and then Purdue's cooking with peanut oil. They had a double-digit win against Iowa. It was one of those things. I want to shout out Ben Stevens, Big Ten Ben. He was talking about how that Oregon game was a look-ahead spot for Purdue because they had such a heavy schedule that they had to play after that. And so he was kind of pointing out, because I think that Nebraska fans, and myself included in this, were a little excited and licking our lips a little since they barely beat Oregon, and they had lost to Indiana earlier in the week, and they went on that 3-game skid. But back-to-back impressive wins for the Boilermakers on the road against Nebraska and then on the road against Iowa. They won that game by a total of 21 points. Massive game tomorrow in the Big Ten. Michigan at Purdue, currently number 13 in the country versus number 2 in the country. Purdue more than likely will probably notch into the Big Ten after the AP poll gets released at 12 o'clock today. So that's kind of your whip around college basketball. We had that crazy fight between Providence and St. John's. We had a popcorn fire in Oklahoma.
And that will come up later.
It will come up later. A popcorn fire probably best describes what's going on in Oklahoma basketball at this point, which Porter Moser, if you look up Porter Moser right now in terms of Oklahoma basketball, the first thing that pops up is his buyout. So it's one of those things where we're probably trending in the wrong direction for the former coach of the Cinderella
stunk in that arena after
Loyola Chicago run a couple of years ago. God, that was almost like 10 years ago.
It does not seem
Chicago
that long
run.
ago.
My goodness, who could forget that buzzer beater against Miami? So we could see, hey, I mean, there is somebody in Omaha who is a basketball coach who has very deep Oklahoma ties and has his team trending in the right direction after the Omaha Mavericks picked up a big win against Denver over the weekend and followed that up where they have a pretty big game against Oral Roberts, who won their first game in like 2 months against Kansas City a couple of games ago. Should be a easier victory, hopefully, for the Mavericks against the Golden Eagles on Wednesday. But Chris Crutchfield has Omaha moving in the right direction.
They're on the right side of the standings now.
They very much are. They're fourth in the Summit League standings, and they went on a very tough stretch where they had to play North Dakota State, and St. Thomas, the three top teams in the Summit League, and they won one of those games. They probably should have won two of them, and they held their own in every single one of them. Should be interesting to see maybe what could occur at Oklahoma, followed up by what if the Mavericks win another Summit League tournament, which is a sentence that, if you said a couple of weeks ago, was probably more pie in the sky or more hypothetical than anything. But I think if Omaha has proven anything over the last couple of weeks, is that they very well could compete and win another Summit League title, which, if that were to be the case and Mosier were to be fired, it'd be interesting if, Oklahoma takes a look at Crutch. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it'd be interesting if that were to be the case. All hypotheticals, by the way, Peter Krenzer. More so to highlight, though, Omaha basketball moving in the right direction. Plenty of teams in Nebraska in terms of college basketball moving in the right direction. We'll talk about that next. I'll give you a prompt here before we go to break. For you Nebraska basketball fans, this is a magical season. What do you think the floor of the Huskers is? What is their floor heading into the NCAA tournament? And what is their ceiling? What do you think Nebraska basketball's floor is? What do you think their ceiling is? For Creighton basketball fans, what is your outlook heading into the next offseason? Are you optimistic? Are you pessimistic? Are you in the middle? How are you feeling about your Blue Jays heading into what could potentially be Greg McDermott's final season as the head coach of Creighton basketball? 402-951-1620 is the phone number if you want to call in and answer those questions. We already given you our emails at the Equitable Bank inbox, Matt at 1620 The Zone, Peter _Krenzer at 1620
Oh yeah,
The Zone.
Misspoke earlier. That's my handle if you want to send anything in, and then my email pkrenzer@nrg media.
pkrenzer@nrg,
which we do need to. I don't know.
I
guess I need a new email
we
now.
need to figure that.
I don't know what my new email is.
Matt at 1620 The Zone. What is Nebraska's floor? What is their ceiling? And Creighton basketball, what is your outlook heading into next offseason? Are you optimistic? Are you pessimistic? Are you in the middle? We'll answer those questions. We'll give you our own answers. Coming up next here on Middays with Matt.
Now back to Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone.
We have sports left, right, and center right now going on across the, not only just country, across the world right now is USA women's hockey. I don't know who Sweden's goalie is. They got to take her out.
Yeah.
She's seeing ghosts right now.
We're not doing great.
As USA women's hockey now up 5-0 against Sweden in the quarterfinals. So well on their way to going to the semifinals is USA women's hockey. Tomorrow, the men will play the winner of, I believe it's Sweden taking on Latvia, which Sweden surprisingly did not win their group. And so a team that we kind of assumed that either Canada or U.S. would have to play in the semifinals to go to the gold medal game will be a team that the USA will potentially have to play in the quarterfinals tomorrow. So we'll see that. Also, too, right now, shout out to Black Cat. He, had my attention drawn to it. Nebraska women's basketball is in action right now at Pinnacle Bank Arena. They're currently down 10-2 to the Iowa Hawkeyes. Nebraska women's basketball 16-9. I saw yesterday on the Big Ten Network that they're projected to be a 9 seed in the NCAA women's tournament. They're trying to stop the bleeding today at home against Iowa. They've lost their last 4 games. 3 of them were to ranked opponents, Ohio State, Michigan, and Maryland, and then dropped a disappointing one on the road at Minnesota by a score of 67-84. That was last Thursday. So they're currently in action right now against the Hawkeyes at PBA, down 8 early in the first quarter is Nebraska women's basketball. Looking through some bracketology things here. I have a bracket here from CBS Sports. Let's go ahead. Let's have some fun with this. Nebraska projected to be a 3 seed, Peter Krenzer, taking on UC Irvine. Irvine, and I've said this, I made this prediction on the board. I do think a 14 seed will take down a 3 seed this year. I mean, there are some really interesting 14 seeds. North Dakota State would be one of them. UC Irvine will be one of them. Troy will be an interesting 14 seed potentially. Hawaii could be an interesting 14 seed. Hawaii might end up being a 13. It's dependent on who comes out of the Big West. Their biggest competition would be
Big West. The top of that is a real toss-up.
Well,
honestly.
so right now Hawaii is 16-6. They're 98th in the net in the Big West. UC Irvine currently 120th in the net ranking. That's who Nebraska is projected to play in their first round of the NCAA tournament game. So UC Irvine could be the team that falls to Nebraska and becomes the Huskers' first ever win in the NCAA tournament. Then interesting. So Tennessee and Miami of Ohio would be the matchup on the other side against Nebraska. So Nebraska could potentially play Tennessee or Miami of Ohio. It would be funny if Miami of Ohio were undefeated heading into that matchup against Nebraska and potentially in the round of 32 to get to the Sweet 16. And then the 2 seed projected for CBS Sport would be Iowa State, which would be a tough draw. And then Nebraska would be in Duke's bracket. They would be where Duke is the number 1 overall team on that side of the bracket. So a very interesting, the top 4 seeds, Duke, Iowa State, Nebraska, and Vanderbilt. That would be a very tough draw. Let's just be real. That'd be a very tough draw for Nebraska basketball.
It's a tough region.
Well, I'm looking at some of the other regions here. Like, I don't know if I necessarily want to be in the South in this projection because you got Houston, hell of a team, could be the number 1 overall seed when it's all said and done. Then you would have Purdue. That's a team that, definitely has given Nebraska challenges. And in terms of, the NCAA tournament, we talk about matchups, right? And we'll get into this discussion a little bit more here. But Purdue just does not match up. Nebraska does not match up well with Purdue. And we kind of saw that.
As we've seen, yeah.
So it's one of those things where, and when we'll talk about this a little more, Doug's on the line, so we're going to take his call first. But I'm very confident when it comes to Nebraska winning in the round of 64 and winning in the round of 32, because I think it's hard for Nebraska basketball to not match up well against teams that aren't at the top of the heap. And I think we've seen, too, with this Nebraska basketball team, while at times it's looked sloppy, and particularly Saturday against Northwestern, they haven't dropped the ball against a team that is just actively worse for them. And I do think we are getting to the point, and you brought this up, Joe Lunardi had Nebraska basketball as a 4 seed. Like, I do think we kind of forget. I understand the Nebraska basketball as of late, they've lost 3 games. It's not great when it comes to these NCAA tournament rankings to lose your games in bunches because you're more susceptible to falling way quicker as opposed to if you kind of spread out those losses throughout the season. At the same time, let's remember who they lost to. They lost to Purdue, who is playing like one of the better teams in the country right now, who definitely have bounced back from this kind of weird 2-week hiatus they took. They lost to Michigan by 3 points on the road without their 2 best players. Michigan is going to be the number 1 overall rated team by the end of the day today. And then they lost to an Illinois team who at the time was playing some of the best basketball in the country and still is one of the best teams in the country. So I think Nebraska might be getting a little bit more slack than they deserve in terms of the losses that they've suffered recently. At the same time, though, you can start to look back and say, well, they got it. Nebraska needs a big win. Nebraska needs to get another really high quality win at Iowa, which will take place tomorrow. Could be that high quality win right now.
And that's about as desperate of an Iowa team as you're going to see this year in that game specifically tomorrow.
Well, yeah,
because they don't have a whole ton of, I mean, they really have not cashed in quite yet on any major quad 1 opportunities to this point.
Iowa currently 27th in the net ranking. I believe it would be a Q1A win for Nebraska basketball.
It should be. Yeah.
Iowa is 2-5. So this is your point. They're 2-5 in quad 1 wins. They need to get more high quality victories as well. They had that opportunity against Illinois in their last game. They did not take advantage of it. So you're right. I was going to be desperate tomorrow. It would be a very high quality win for Nebraska to go to Carver Hawkeye Arena and win that one. And then, if you can parlay a win tomorrow into momentum at home against Penn State and Maryland, and then you just got to make sure that you don't trip and fall on the West Coast, Nebraska could have a very, very strong ending to this season, which could propel them potentially into being a number 2 seed. We gave you a prompt here. Gave you a prompt before we went to break. If you're a Nebraska basketball fan, what do you think this team's floor is? And what do you think their ceiling is? If you're a Creighton basketball fan, how are you looking at the offseason? Are you optimistic about the offseason? Are you pessimistic about the offseason? Are you kind of in the middle? I want to hear some of your opinions, and we'll give you our thoughts throughout the show. We'll go to the Prairie Flower Casino hotline here. 402-951-1620 is a number if you want to get in on the conversation. Prairie Flower Casino, play longer, win more. Old man Doug calls in. Doug, it's been a while, my friend. How are you?
Young man, what's going on? Young man Doug here.
Oh,
Jasker, I know it's frowned upon in Omaha.
Young man Doug.
I know.
Young man.
Yeah.
So we had old man.
The antithesis of old man Doug.
Okay, not old man. Different man. All right, continue, Doug.
Phone cut out on me. I heard man Doug. I thought it was old man Doug.
What do you, young man Doug? What do you think of the Jason Husker?
Okay, so as a Jasker, I'll say this: my rationale for being a Jasker is any can bring national attention to the state of Nebraska, I will very kosher term, whatever. So, to answer the prompt question, Nebraska, their floor, I would say, is round of 32 in the postseason. Ceiling, Elite Eight.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I vibe.
Just with how they've the edge that they seem to have lost the last 4 weeks, I would say Elite Eight is probably their ceiling. Creighton during the offseason, I honestly think they need to address their lack of physicality.
Without
doubt. That was the most glaring thing I've noticed this entire season. One of the worst Jays team I've watched since probably 1998. So, anyways, that's kind of my take as a casual fan.
All righty.
Casual Jasker. Appreciate the midday slot, Matt.
Of course.
Keep doing your job, and we'll keep listening.
Thank you, young man Doug. I appreciate it. I agree with Doug. I fully agree. I am round of 32 is the floor, and Elite Eight is the ceiling in this current iteration of Nebraska basketball. Here's why I think round of 32 is the floor. Because Nebraska basketball, the NCAA tournament is all about matchups. It's just how do you match up right, from game to game. And the team that is the most versatile and has the perfect mix of shooting and height and length and skill and coaching, that is the team that ends up winning the NCAA tournament. The team that can play against the most different type of styles, adapt to those styles, and then also the team that is just gets hot and is playing high-level basketball. I look at Nebraska basketball, and I think that there are two types of teams that can beat them. A team that overwhelms them with size, and not just, hey, they have a 7-foot center. I'm talking about a team that can overwhelm them 1 through 5.
Yeah.
Who it's going to be very hard for Nebraska basketball to switch as much as they want on the defensive end. So a team that overwhelms them with size, and a team that overwhelms them with athleticism. Okay, that a team that just has too many guys who are bigger than them, faster than them, can jump out of the gym. I think athleticism matching it, they can be out athletic, if you will, and they can be outsized. I don't think you're not really going to get that out of a 14 seed. You're not going to get that out of a 15. You're not really going to get that out of a 13. It's just the teams that you're playing against in that first round, if you are a top 4 seed, are teams that are from group of 5 conferences, that are from mid-major conferences, that aren't from major conferences, that don't have that prerequisite size, that don't have that prerequisite athleticism, right? And, typically those teams, those types of mid-major teams, they'll just get hot and outshoot and go crazy against athletic teams that think they can just walk into the building and beat them because they're so much faster than them or so much more athletic than them, right? Oakland versus Kentucky was a great example. I think Kentucky just thought, oh, okay, we're bigger than these guys, we're faster than, no big deal. And Jack Golke goes ahead and he just shoots the daylights out of the ball. I don't think that's going to happen to Nebraska basketball. I think that this team has proved time in and time out that when they play lesser opponents, they can handle them and they don't overlook teams and they don't just walk into gyms and say, oh, we can just roll out of bed and beat them.
No.
Nebraska basketball, game in and game out this season, has given their max effort regardless of who they're playing against. And so the teams that Nebraska basketball won't match up well with are the ones that they're going to potentially end up playing in the Sweet 16, in the Elite 8.
Like the Purdue's that we've...
like the Purdue's, the Illinois,
and I think,
like the Arizonas, like the, Zaga would definitely give them trouble in that regard. Like, those are the types of teams that would give Nebraska basketball trouble. I look at a 15 and a 14 and a 13 and say, well, Nebraska basketball has played teams that are better than these teams, that are more athletic than these teams, and yet they've handled business time in and time out. They haven't, say what you want about Nebraska basketball's lack of taking advantage of Q1 opportunities of late. The one thing they haven't done this entire season is drop a bad one. And we've seen a lot of teams, even Gonzaga, drop bad ones. We've seen Michigan drop bad ones. I mean, look, let's be real. Like, it looks better now, but at the time when they lost to Wisconsin at home, you're like, what the hell is going on? Right? So it's one of those instances where I'm not really that afraid of the round of 64 just because I haven't been shown a reason to be afraid of the round of 64. Granted, I think there are a lot of teams in the past history of the NCAA tournament who have felt that way. But even from the viewpoint of, well, what if they just have a bad game? Well, they had a terrible half against a bad team in Northwestern over the weekend, and they ended up defeating them by 20 points. So,
in those 3 losses in that stretch where people were said this 3 out of the next 4, including the Rutgers game, is going to be a big tell if this team can hang. They lost those 3 ranked matchups, which gave a lot of fuel to the fire of the neutral viewers who were just waiting for a collective sample of games to cast out on Nebraska. But I think what we learned in those games is the matchup problems that a lot of Nebraska fans were worried about were emphasized, like the rebounding and going up against teams with multiple bigs. But what I think we also learned on the flip side of that is that you have to punch that team for 40 minutes. And if you don't stay on top of them and keep your foot on the gas, one shot, one possession, string a few possessions together, Price maybe makes a few shots. It's really hard to keep that team out of a game. So if they can just string a few possessions together, it's really hard to keep them down.
Let's talk about why my ceiling is the Elite 8, though. And I think my ceiling can raise potentially but we have to address a couple of things right now with Nebraska basketball. And, this might lead to future segments because people will have opinions on this. But there are 3 players that I'm currently looking at that we have to have a convo about and, frankly, have to play better if Nebraska basketball is going to go into, if they're going to go into the second weekend and if they're going to play 2 games in the second weekend, we have to see a little bit more out of Braden Frager right now. Since Braden Frager's injury, 10 points, shooting 35% from the field, 33% from 3. Okay? He's taken 37 shots. He's taken 37 shots since he's returned in the Illinois game. 27 of them have been from 3. That is very telling to me. It's very telling that, kind of his shiftiness that he had in the paint, his ability to get to the basket, kind of that burst of speed, that burst of athleticism that made him such a layered 3-level scorer isn't there right now. And it's because he hurt his ankle. He needs to get his feet back under him. He needs to go to the rim. He took 12 shots against Illinois. All 12 of them were from 3. I think that was very telling, and that's kind of been a trend. And so 10 points, 35% from the field, 33% from 3. He is a true scorer. With Braden, it's one of those things where I don't doubt. I mean, Nebraska basketball is still a really good team when Braden Frager isn't at his best. But when Braden Frager is at his best, that's when Nebraska basketball becomes a great team. That's when they reach the next level. That's when they beat top teams. And I think it has massively hurt their resume that he suffered that ankle injury against Washington because, they got the best out of him in Illinois and they still didn't beat him because they just got beat by Illinois. But if they get a little bit more out of him against Purdue and they just have him against Michigan, you could be looking at 2 more quad 1 wins in Nebraska firmly being on a 2-seed line. Let's talk about Rink Mask 2. 1 of 4, 3 total points, 6 turnovers. You thought after the Rutgers game that maybe he turned the corner. You saw him make some big shots against Purdue, had 18 points. You thought, okay, we're going to put this thing to bed. I'm back to being concerned about Rink. And it's just because I've seen more questionable performances out of him in the last 3.5 weeks than I've seen good performances out of him. And that's another guy too, where, if Rink isn't playing at his best, Nebraska basketball can still be a really good team that wins an NCAA tournament game or 2. But when Rink is at his best, that's when this team can become great. And we have to start getting to the realization of this doesn't happen a lot at Nebraska basketball where we're talking about them at a 2-line or a 3-line in terms of seeding. And so you got to capitalize on this. This is one of your best opportunities you might ever have, really, because who's to say that this is sustainable? Who's to say that this is going to be what's going to be Nebraska basketball year in and year out? This is more likely to be lightning in a bottle than it is to be the new norm for Nebraska basketball. And I don't think that's an insult to say. That's just going off of history, right? And we've seen Fred Hoiberg hit in the portal and do really well in the portal and get guys and create a good team like this and the one a couple of years ago. We've also seen Hoiberg go in the portal and, not hit and not get the players that are the best for this team and the style of play. And so, by the way, that's not a Fred thing. That's not a knock on Fred. That happens all across the country. It seems like there is way more volatility when it comes to college basketball and getting the portal. And there aren't as many portal czars out there or portal wizards out there that year in and year out are hitting on great classes and developing great classes. It seems to be a little erratic more than consistent. So that's why I'm very hard on Rink and I'm very hard on Braden here because this team is really good if one of them is playing well. But if both of them are playing well, it's great. And they need to both be great to take advantage of this awesome opportunity that they could potentially have here to make a deep run in the NCAA tournament. And there's one other guy too. And I know it was a bit on the morning show when I was hosting it, but we need to see more out of Berke Butenjo. Okay? Since the Michigan game, he's had 25 rebounds. He's had 10 turnovers, 34% from the field, 2 of 8 from 3. We've seen less of the, oh my God, this guy's a showman and this guy's electric and this guy and the crowd loves him and he's playing to the crowd. And we've seen less of that and we've seen more of the older Berke. We've seen more of the Berke that we didn't really like to see last year. Okay. 8 3-pointers. He's only made 2 of them. He took 2 of them in the first half against Purdue. Mind-boggling. He took a couple of them against Illinois. That's not a shot, and yet it just seems like he's back to being like, oh, I'm open. I've made this before in practice. No, that's not your shot. Don't take it. He's turned the ball over 10 times. He's not getting the assist numbers as frequent as he was earlier. And, he hasn't had more than 6 assists in his last 5 or 6 rebounds in his last 5 games. So, Berke, who was playing great basketball earlier in the season and into January and the heart and soul of this team, he still is playing really good defense, but he's just taken a step back. And he's become closer to the oh no Berke than the oh yes Berke as of late. And he just needs to pick it up. I don't think he's playing terrible. I don't think he's playing awful. I think he's still playing better than what he was last year. But when he was his most electric and at his best and really taking his role with pride and not taking those 3-pointers and, consistently being a 7 to 8 rebound guy and even having a couple of assists and playing lockdown D, like that's when the team was moving, was really cooking. And he just hasn't, since that Michigan game, there's been a couple of games now, hasn't really been that guy. They need him to step up a little bit more. They need him to play a little bit better. But this is me being tough. This is me being tough on a really, really good team that could be a great team. All right, coming up next, let's have some opinions on a team that isn't really good or great, and that is probably closer to being subpar. And we got some emails coming in about the Creighton Blue Jays. I'll give you some of my thoughts on Creighton's loss against Villanova and the outlook of the Blue Jays offseason. Coming up next here on Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone.
Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone. Now back to Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone.
USA women's hockey wagon 5-0 right now up against the Swedes. Third period, 15 to play. Awesome second period by USA women's hockey. Caroline Harvey out there right now, number 4, absolutely killing it. The Wisconsin Badger captain, stud. All studs on this USA women's hockey team. Only giving up 1 goal all tournament long as USA women's hockey, who are well on their way to going to the Olympic gold medal game as they are playing Sweden in the semifinals. Let's talk about one wagon to another wagon. Omaha softball, undefeated. Peter Krenzer. Undefeated to begin the year. Go Mavericks. Shout out head coach Mike Hurd. 9-0 to start the season. They went undefeated in the Unidome tournament. Then they went to the West Coast. They beat Utah Tech. They beat Southern Utah. They beat FDU. They beat Boise State. They beat FDU again for S and Giggles. And now they are 9-0. They will be in Alabama this weekend to take on the conglomerate of Kennesaw State, Furman, Nichols, Troy, and Kennesaw again on Sunday. And then they'll have some Power 4 battles in 2 weeks against Arkansas and Kansas. So hell of a start to Omaha women's softball, who for the first time in program history are number 1 in the country in the softball mid-major poll. So congratulations to Omaha softball.
Shout out.
Absolute wagon in the D1 softball mid-major rankings. Number 1 overall, 9-0 to begin the year. Nice little article just dropped from Rivals. Not for football, though. I know when we always talk about Rivals and recruiting and 247 sports and all that great jazz, we talk about football. It's a college basketball Rivals article about the top 25 top 25 recruits in the country and where they might end up heading. Creighton has found their way on this article. 4-star small forward Jackson Richardson is the number 25 ranked player in the 2026 class. He's 6'6", out of Florida. He announced his finals 4 schools in November, which are Alabama, Ole Miss, USC, and Creighton. Joe Tipton of Rivals predicts that Jackson Richardson will go to Creighton. His confidence level that the Blue Jays will land the 4-star small forward Jackson Richardson is medium. The biggest threat to Creighton at this point in getting Richardson is longtime rival of Creighton Blue Jay basketball, Alabama. Everybody knows one of the biggest rivalries in all of college basketball. I mean, it is. I mean, Connor Happer kind of jokes about it. They've just played them a lot as of late.
They do play.
And now they're battling for the services, the potential and future services of 4-star small forward out of Florida, Mr. Jackson Richardson. All right, so we gave you a prompt about Creighton men's basketball heading in from last segment into this segment. I ask you, what is your outlook for Creighton men's basketball in the future? What is your offseason outlook for him? Teddy writes in, I do not have high hopes for Creighton next year because the least I expect, the better they do. We always get some quality players, but unfortunately injuries cursed our season this year, and I hope we can bounce back next year. See, Teddy's not completely wrong. Like, the Owen Freeman injury clearly derailed his season. Now, has he had plenty of time to recover from it? Yes. Was the expectation that he would get his legs under him and eventually be a contributor for this team in January and especially in the month of February? Yes. Have those things happened? No. Is Owen Freeman and his style of play look to match the system of Creighton basketball? No, it has not. Okay. Just plain and simple. He is not. And then you look at Jackson McAndrew and the injury that he suffered. That has definitely affected Creighton men's basketball. Having Jackson go down is something that I don't want to say we glossed over, but we sometimes forget about how important having a 6'10" wing who can shoot the 3-pointer for this team would be. Having that length and having that height for a team that doesn't have that in spades has been incredibly detrimental to this Creighton basketball roster. So I think those two injuries, like the major setback that was given to Owen Freeman that didn't give him the proper runway to fit into Creighton basketball system, hurt them mightily. And then obviously the injury to Jackson McAndrew has hurt them mightily. I, though, have a optimistic outlook for Creighton next season. And I'll give you two reasons why. First off, I've been super impressed with Hudson Greer over the last couple of games. I know that he hasn't dropped 20, but the strides that young man has made from being a redshirt freshman to them taking his redshirt off to suffering an injury, recovering from that injury, and then just improving and gaining confidence as the season has gone on has been nothing short but of impressive. And you look at the guy, I mean, he's 6'7". He's got a great build, good frame, long, has that length that you love in basketball prospects in terms of what he can be able to do potentially in the paint on both sides of the floor. I think that, his defense and his effort, his defense has improved and his effort is you cannot question that young man's effort. He gives everything he possibly can on the floor, along with the fact that already as a true freshman, not only does he have the shot making ability from the outside, but he also has the confidence in conference play and power conference play to take and make those shots. The last couple of games, I've been nothing short of impressed of Greer. I obviously have been nothing short of impressed when it comes to Jackson McAndrew, and hopefully when he comes back from injury, he's playing like the player he was before he got hurt, because he was having some really big games and showing some massive improvements from last season to this season. And then, man, Jason Green has been the MVP of this team, a guy clearly playing out of position, but has improved from a scoring perspective big time from last year to this year, on top of just, he is the heart and soul of this basketball team. And so you look at a core of Greer, McAndrew, and Green, along with the other guys that are returning, because they got a lot of guys coming back. It's only Josh Dix and Nick Graves who won't be returning to next year's team from an eligibility perspective. So you start with that core of three. It's not the greatest, right? It's not the best in the country, but that's something to work with. That's something to look forward to. That's something that you can build off of. You can build off of Hudson Greer, Jackson McAndrew, and Jason Green heading into next season. And then I think the other point of positivity that I would look to is that, yes, Creighton basketball has some major problems this year, but the problems are so clear and obvious that they're very solvable. Okay, hey, you need two guys who can, bang around in the paint. You need two guys you need a primary rim protector and somebody who can come off the bench and do that for you. You're going to need a point guard. You're going to need a true point guard who can push the pace, who can be effective in fast break play, who can set you up in your offense, who can play smart basketball, who can limit turnovers, who can get guys shots. That's what you need, right? You need a true point guard and a true center. And then you can kind of work off of some of the guys you have coming off the bench. I think Kerem Konan has shown some potential. I think Fedor Zugic, definitely has shown not just potential, but just production in terms of coming off the bench role. Ty Davis hasn't improved the way that maybe you hoped he would, but the guy bleeds Creighton blue at this point and plays his ass off every time he's on the court. Maybe if he takes another step, he can find himself in a role in terms of being productive off the bench. But I think that clearly Creighton has shown that they're willing to invest in the portal and beat out some quality teams in order to get prospects that they want. And they have a core of Greer and McAndrew and Green that isn't the best in the country, but it's better than most, especially if Greer and McAndrew take, big steps heading into next season. And especially if McAndrew comes off of that injury relatively unscathed. So I know this has been a tough season for Creighton men's basketball. I know that the expectations were very high. This team came into the year ranked with a very hard non-con, hoping to boost their resume and be, on the upper echelon of seeds in the NCAA tournament, and it's gone completely the other way. But looking at the resources that Creighton has shown from this season, they're willing to invest, along with some of the young guys that they have coming back that've shown promise, and the fact that you don't really have to split the atom to find out what they have to do better. You don't. They need a in-tune point guard and they need a rim protector. And I think that, it isn't going to be too hard to go across the country and find guys who can fill those roles. And so, I'm not going to sit up here right now and tell you that Creighton is going to make a Final Four next year or say anything bombastic like that. But I definitely don't look at the results of this season and say, all right, we're in for the long haul. This is gonna be a long time before Creighton men's basketball can find themselves to back being in contention in the Big East. I don't feel that way at all. I think that they have the young core and the ability to go out and get guys in the transfer portal who can help them right away. Granted, the last time they tried doing that, they failed. So you gotta hold them to that. But also too, Mac has done a great job of going to the portal and getting guys who have been effective for this team as well. Did it work out this year? No. But did it work out with Baylor Shireman? You're damn right. Stephen Ashworth? You're damn right. Jemiah Neal? You're damn right. List goes on. So there's a give and take here. But I think that Creighton has a young, good core that can get this team back into competing with the St. John's and UConns as early as next season. Coming up next, as God intended, the odd news at 11:45 or 11:48 here on Middays with Matt.
Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone.
And now we've reached the point in the show where Josh Odson reads the peculiar, the bizarre, the comical, the odd news with Odd Son. Odd news, Odd Son. See what we did there? The odd news with Oddson.
Well, Josh Hodson isn't here today. He's enjoying a much needed, much deserved day off. Congratulations to him.
Congrats.
I will get that 2 weeks from now. So it will not be me in the chair. Like it's Peter Krenzer today. It'll be Austin Jacobson and Josh Hodson next Friday.
Look at that.
We will have the odd news with Peter Krenzer. Peter man, what do you have for us?
All right, we got a few things. So with the Winter Olympics going on right now, we're right in the middle of things. We're back in the news cycle of condoms at the Olympic Village. It does feel like it frequently comes up every Olympics, winter and summer. And this year, we have our Valentine's Day news drop for the Olympic Village in Milan.
Give it to us.
So the AP News reported that there is a renewed supply of free condoms coming in because the organizers drastically underestimated the amount that would be needed. I don't know how they drastically underestimated.
So apparently there were 10,000 condoms that were given out to the Olympic Village, which, by the way, kudos to the Olympic Village, being very progressive here and making sure that we're having some safe sex. So shout out.
Good for them.
I don't know why people are are surprised or confused that the Olympians like to have sex at the Olympic Village. Okay. These are people who have worked their entire lives, who have been incredibly dedicated to their craft, who their testosterone levels could not be at a higher mark.
And I mean, what, 3-4 weeks that they're away from home?
They're away from home for a month. And on top of that, they are surrounded by a bunch of incredibly athletic and great looking humans. I'm going to tell you right now. I mean, athletes are just, and in particularly, male or female, like they're just very good looking humans. They're in shape. They got great jawlines.
Everyone's ripped.
There's not a lot of there's, and there's a whole wide array of what I don't want to get too horny here on the show, but I don't think that this should be a surprise to anybody that some of the best looking athletes in the world are all together in a very tightly confined space, and they can't help but, having a good time together. So, now, should the Olympic advisors have anticipated that 10,000 condoms would not have been enough for these athletes? Absolutely not. I think 10,000 condoms would be fine as well. But,
apparently not.
Apparently not. And maybe I would love to know if there's an expert on this that say that this is an increased here. I don't know. Italy brings out the romantic in people. I'd be shocked if Sochi had as much condom use as Italy. You're in Milan, for Christ's sakes. I mean, Milan,
Valentine's Day in Milan.
It's beautiful. So I don't. It's a funny story. I'm not shocked.
Olympic,
and neither should you be.
Olympic spokesman Mark Adams said, "I think 10,000 have been used amongst 2,800 athletes. You can go figure, as they say. It clearly shows that Valentine's Day is in full swing at the Village." And right you are, Olympic chair. Moving on from the condom talk. So we had a bit of an incident at one of the SEC games this weekend over there in Norman, Oklahoma.
Incident is an understatement, Peter Krenzer. Tell everybody what happened at the Oklahoma-Georgia game.
And so it was actually, I believe, the first media timeout of the game, like the under 16 timeout. And they come back from break, and everyone looks a little hesitant coming out of the huddle to resume the game. No one, but to the viewers on the TV, we can't really tell why.
Sure.
And then that's when things start to become a little more clear as the players are starting to come back onto the court, and then they see what's going on. And we have audio that I would like to play from this incident.
I love this. Play this audio.
Let's go.
So you should go
Goodness
ahead
gracious.
and go ahead and watch the video. It is kind of scary a little bit because there are people on the upper concourse that are like frantically running, for their lives.
People were like right next to this thing, and it was not a small little kitchen. It was a large. This thing was fully ablaze.
This was a Yule log, if you will. Like this is the type of fire that your dad doesn't want to put on the heat during Christmas and says, "All right, kid, find some starters or some wood and make some fire." It was a big one. Shout out Oklahoma and the people there who were able to extinguish this fire, which, by the way, do you know who's on fire? Oklahoma basketball, winners of 2 straight. They defeated Tennessee and Georgia.
Yeah, maybe they're finally. I didn't realize Georgia was kind of on a skid. They
were ranked for a while now.
They were hanging around.
I misspoke there. Oklahoma defeated Vanderbilt in Georgia, and Vanderbilt was ranked. That was on the road for Oklahoma. So Porter Mosier in a last ditch effort trying to save his job over in Norman. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be enough. They actually have won 2 straight games after not winning a game for nearly a whole month. But a weird and scary situations. I have a lot of questions. Obviously, who started the fire? And then why was it just backed away from? And also, too, do they not have a more available fire extinguisher? I don't know. It seemed like the fire was going on.
Yeah, nobody was within.
This is one of those incidents where I think you got to take a step back here. And you definitely have to reevaluate.
Let's look at our fire protocols.
Seriously, I'm being real with you. That thing was burning for a while.
It
and there was a lot of people
within the whole arena.
Within a panic. Sith goes, Matt, I'd say we didn't start the fire. No, we didn't. It was only burning. All right. Marilyn Monroe. What a great song.
Marilyn Monroe.
What's our next story?
Okay, we'll close it on this one. And this is going to be...
Mariachi. Peter, stop singing the song, Peter. Jeez, man.
It's in our head. We're going to sing it the whole break.
No, stop.
This is going to be a little bit of an audience participation one. I thought this would be fun. So last night I was scrolling on Twitter and came across a photo of someone who bought a slice of gas station pizza. Might seem completely unnewsworthy, but it was a slice of pepperoni pizza. And this pizza, they said, was one of the stranger slices they've ever bought because it's one very large pepperoni covering about half the pizza. And that's it.
All right. I don't have a problem with that.
And here I am. I'm going to post a photo to the Twitter, and then I'm going to do a poll. I'm going to quote the photo with a poll.
Look at you being super progressive.
So here comes the picture of the pizza, because for some reason I can't do a picture with a poll. I don't know why that's not a thing.
All right. Well, tweet that picture. I see it. Oh, it's just like, it's like Mike Wazowski.
I was going to say, that's the exact thing I was going to say. I was like, imagine Mike Wazowski as a pepperoni pizza.
If they put a second big pepperoni on there, like under the first big pepperoni, I'd be down with that. Have a pepperoni regardless of the bite, and you bite. I'm a fan. I don't hate that as long as there was a second pepperoni. It's one of those things. Joe DiMaggio, Joe McCarthy, Richard Nixon, Studebaker Television, North Korea, South. No, we didn't start the fire. It was Porter Mosier, and he's gonna lose his job. We didn't start the fire.
So I guess my question to all of you out there as the poll is going up right now, is this an appropriate slice of pizza? If you got this wanting to get a slice of pepperoni pizza, would you be disappointed? Is my question.
I'm gonna be honest with you. You could put tomato and cheese and whatever the hell you want on a piece of cardboard. I mean, there are some pizzas that are much better than other pizzas. I'm not a believer in bad pizza. I seriously, I will eat any slice of pizza any day of the week. I'm never, ever mad about eating pizza. I've had slices that are much worse than other slices I've had, but you will never see me eat a piece of pizza and be like, ugh.
And you know what?
I will have any Sbarro, doesn't matter. I will have any type of pizza, and I will be satisfied more than. There are some foods where the best version of that food doesn't hold a candle to medium, to mid pizza.
You know what? I'm with you.
There are some you could give me the best salad in the world,
and you'd be like, "Wow!"
And it
as
would
good
not,
as a mid pizza.
And it would not be better than like a pizza on a 7-3 scale. Seriously, I'm just saying. I mean, pizza is that food. It is universally delicious. And if there's somebody who's messed up pizza, I've not met that person yet. And honestly, if you were to make a pizza that was so bad it was inedible, I'd actually be impressed by you. I'd actually be like, you know what?
That's
an
study it
accomplishment.
for science.
I honestly think it's harder to make pizza terrible than it is to make great pizza. I mean, you really got to mess up. You have to make it almost like poisonous for bad pizza for me to not to have it. So that's how I feel about it. So yes, to answer your question, Peter Krenzer, I would eat that pizza. I would eat that pizza.
Matt is all in.
Hey, the AP poll out. The AP poll for college basketball
it is noon.
out. It is out. We will go ahead and tell you all about it, along with other results that have happened across Nebraska in sports. We'll also have an interesting conversation about the current state of the Nebraska athletic department, more in particular the results of athletics that is going on right now, along with some of the effects that other sports have on the vibe when it comes to how we look at Nebraska athletics. Along with, we'll have a conversation about the MLB ABS system, along with the NBA All-Star Game. Don't forget, Robin Washington. It's a Monday, 1:20. He will be here on the Zone on Middays with Matt at 1:20, talking to us about Husker basketball, their win against Northwestern, and their outlook for the rest of the year. Can Nebraska basketball go 7-0, or 6-0 rather, to finish the season? We will ask Robin that and get his very educated and honest opinion on that question. All here on 1620 The Zone.
Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone. Now, back to Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone.
Hey, don't forget the Black Keys are headed to Omaha Peaches and Cream Tour with Eddie 9V. It's Monday, July 20th at the Astro Amphitheater. Listen all week doing sportsmanlike conduct for a chance to win your way into the show. We also want to remind you that we have plenty of contests that you can enter in at online at 1620thezone.com. Journey is in Lincoln celebrating the Final Frontier Tour. Thursday, April 9th at Pinnacle Bank Arena. George Thorogood and the Destroyers with Marshall Tucker are in the Metro this spring. It's the baddest show on earth tour. That's at the Astro on May 17th. Yachtly Crew is in Omaha this summer on June 23rd at the Steel House. And finally, Chris Capleton is in Lincoln for the All-American Road Show Tour featuring Nikki Lane October 7th at Pinnacle Bank Arena. Don't forget, enter online at 1620thezone.com to win your way into those shows if you so please. As talking about winning your way into things, USA Women's Hockey has won their way into the gold medal game after defeating Sweden in a dominant victory. Nebraska women's basketball currently in action right now, losing to Iowa at halftime, 45-27 is the score of that game. If you got some time, we got President's Day off here for a lot of people at home, so you can put that game on Big Fox if you're not watching anything else right now. Do you have a top 5 ranking of presidents?
Honestly, no. I would have to think that over.
Morgan Freeman would definitely be one. I'm talking about actors who were presidents.
Morgan would have to be one or two, I would think.
Who's the guy who was Harvey Dent in the Batman, the actor? What's his name? Come on, you know.
As in Dark Knight, Harvey Dent?
Yes. That guy. He was a great president.
Gosh, why am I completely blanking on his name?
It's totally okay. Don't worry about it.
As someone who watches, Aaron Eckhart.
He was great.
I always forget his name. Why do I always?
He was a really good president.
He's a very presidential looking actor.
What is that supposed to mean, Peter? What does that mean? He's a presidential.
He just carries himself like a president.
He's just a white man. Is that what you're saying,
on.
Peter Krenzer? You just see a white man and you go, yeah, that's a presidential.
I just said Morgan Freeman would be one or two.
How dare you, Peter Krenzer? You just
also in that movie is Morgan Freeman as Lucius.
Just couldn't help yourself either. Why, you don't think Morgan Freeman is a presidential? You don't think Morgan Freeman's a presidential looking actor? Peter Krenzer, how dare you?
I resent this.
How dare you? Absolutely ridiculous. I don't know if I want to host with you anymore. I just can't believe you would say something.
I'm leaving. I'm walking out.
I'm kidding. Making jokes. Is there not
who was Harrison Ford president? Oh,
yes,
in Air Force One.
Well, he was also president in the most recent Captain America movie as well.
Oh my God, yeah, that's right.
Do you think Harrison Ford is also a presidential looking man, Peter Krenzer?
Does Red Hulk count as president?
He does. I guess Red Hulk was president.
Red Hulk was the sitting president for part of the movie.
He was the sitting president of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which just goes to show you how stupid that movie universe has become. But there you go.
Hey, we're getting back on track, I think. Time will tell.
You know, I'm okay, I'll stop making jokes. Probably not the best time to make an Obama joke here on the air. Just probably not the.
We got some we got quite a bit of Obama airtime on the All-Star game last night.
I'm seeing a lot of quotes from Barack.
His interview with Reggie was fun.
I'm seeing a lot more of Barack recently than I thought I would see in the year of 2026. There's a lot of quotes, a lot of him on Twitter, a lot of just a lot of our former president in and around the things.
Is he? I'm assuming he's just living in Chicago. Oh my God.
I don't know.
I hope not.
I mean, there's some presidents who are.
So
I thought that's what you were asking. No,
let's hope not.
I don't think he is. Isn't there that there's that database you can go and look up? Oh my God,
Chris!
I thought. I know. I spilled chips on the ground during the break, and
Matt did a chip spill.
I have to pick it up later.
You know how we tell him we call him a child because he loses things.
Turn on his microphone.
He loses things often, and he can't find stuff. And
what's up?
And now
there's chips on the floor.
You're really a child.
There's a sun chip disaster.
Show in 30 seconds before we went on air, it fell all over the place.
How many breaks have you had since the chips fell on the floor?
0.
Okay.
It was the last break where it happened, and he goes, "Oh no!" And I'm like, "What happened?"
I have a show to do. You need anything?
Just come and make sure you're doing okay. That doesn't look right.
Nope, that's buffering. I'm trying to watch curling.
That just happened.
Are you a big curling guy?
I was part of the Curling World Cup when it was here.
Wow. How was that?
What do you think about the touching controversy? The Team Canada.
I am in
The
love.
touching controversy.
when
Is that
they-
the Epstein list joke again? Are you making another?
Team Canada.
Who turned him in? What was it? Sweden?
Sweden. Yeah, they were
So
yelling
I'm
at each
in
other.
love with what Sweden did.
Wow. You like a
Who turned it
snitch?
in?
Wow.
Not a snitch, but like,
Snitches
hey,
got stitches.
you've never been called on this. We're gonna put a very specific camera angle.
I
in.
liked
Boom,
it.
gotcha.
I thought it was fun.
I think the
Added some
Italians
spice.
were looking for some spice, if you will.
Oh.
Spicy things. Alrighty.
A spice.
The AP poll is out for college basketball. What do you? Okay, you're just grabbing things. Like I predicted, and like everybody knew it was going to happen. Michigan, the number 1 overall team in the country, first time since the Fab Five, first time since 1992. The
crazy.
Wolverines are on top of the polls. They are followed behind Houston, then Duke, Arizona, falling from number 1 to number 4 after their loss to Texas Tech, where JT Toppin, one of the best players in the country, for the Red Raiders, went ahead and dropped 31 points. UConn all the way at 5th now, 24-2 are the Huskies. Look, UConn's a really good team. Don't get me wrong, 24-2, nothing to sneeze at. They've had a weird year though, where they just played some of these bad teams in the Big East close. And you know, I watched their game over the weekend against Georgetown. Georgetown and Ed Cooley once again not having that great of a year. 13-12 are the Hoyas in February, with a couple of games to go left in their season. Like UConn controlled that game, and there wasn't too much doubt that they were going to win it. But the UConn of old, like the UConn Huskies that we know to be over the last couple of years, would dominate a team like that by 15, by 20. That wouldn't even have the game come down to 6 points with 4 minutes left to go in the game. And yet this team has done that over and over again this season. They went to overtime against Villanova. They went to overtime against Providence. They played a close game against Butler. It's just been a stranger year for UConn. They're not bad. They're still very, very good. Still, very well on their way to being a 1 or 2 seed, but just not their best. At number 6, we have Iowa State. That's funny that Iowa State drops after their win against Kansas, but earlier in the week, on the road, lost a rock fight to TCU. That was just a really weird game where Iowa State did not have their best stuff, but had their best stuff indeed after defeating Kansas by 18 points. And then Purdue at Iowa, 78-57 was their score. They won that one and are the number 7 team in the country. Kansas at number 8. Nebraska falls 2 spots after their loss to Purdue, but stays in the top 10, number 9. Illinois, after back-to-back losses, they're down to number 10. So that is your top 10 in the country. Michigan, Houston, Duke, Arizona, UConn, Iowa State, Purdue, Kansas, Nebraska, and Illinois is your top 10. Other notable rankings, Florida all the way up to number 12, 19-6 are the Gators. Thriving, though, right now. Only 1 loss since January 6th for Todd Golden's group, and they've won 5 games in a row. Texas Tech, 6 losses this season, but all the way up to number 13 after their big win against formerly number 1 ranked Arizona. Virginia, weird, random, out of nowhere, out of conference game between Ohio State. Gus Johnson on the call, kind of an ad-lib type deal for February college basketball, but pick up a big win on the road against Ohio State. They move up to number 14. Michigan State, after getting their butts whooped by Wisconsin. Talk about Wisconsin, a team surging through the brackets and through the rankings. We'll get to them in a second. After a weird start to the year for Greg Gard's group, they have found their stride with wins over Illinois, Michigan, and now Michigan State. So Michigan State now down to 15 on the polls after entering last week, ranked number 10. St. John's case put at 17. SLU, I know we're going crazy over, Miami of Ohio, who in this poll is ranked 22nd after they moved to 25-0 after defeating Ohio 90-74. But SLU is also having an incredible year. And do you know who loves SLU? The net rankings. SLU is all the way up to 17th.
Really?
In the net. They are 2-0 in quad 1 games this season. Talk about a team that everybody is going to love and everybody is going to tell you to move through the NCAA tournaments on your bracket. SLU has a legit. Nah, they got something. They got something brewing over there. Vanderbilt, good story this season, stays put at 19. Mark Byington doing a hell of a job for the Commodores this season. 21-4. Have kind of wrote the ship a little bit after having some tough losses earlier in the month. Granted, their loss against Oklahoma looks a little bit better after the Sooners beat Georgia, but still, to be Oklahoma's first win in like 28 days, still very embarrassing. Let's go to Wisconsin here. They're ranked 24th in the poll after their win against Michigan State. Right now, Wisconsin went from a team that was, on the bubble and on the better side of the bubble for a little bit to now very much trending into being okay and being safe. They're 9th on the latest release of Bracket Matrix. They very well could hop into maybe the 8 seed line. And if they continue to have a good rest of their season, they could continue to up that seed line. And on top of that, maybe even be a threat to win the Big Ten tournament. Is Matt McMaster thinking of a Wisconsin Big Ten tournament future? You're damn right he is. I'm thinking about a lot of futures, Peter Krenzer. I always have futures on my mind, if you will. So that is kind of your college basketball update there after the AP Top 25.
I don't really have any gripes with this.
I have zero.
Seems appropriate.
Here's the thing: I don't really get that upset about the AP.
Not that it has any standing
Top
on
25,
anything.
I just think it's kind of, Illinois is ranked 10th. Nebraska's ranked 9th. If Illinois and Nebraska were to play right now, I would pick Illinois to win. Okay. Am I going to get upset that Illinois is ranked behind Nebraska? No, I'm not going to. Okay. I'm not going to flip out, right? It's useless, but it's a fun exercise to do. And also a great way to just update on everybody on what's going on. I mean, the AP Top 25 poll is a pretty good barometer of what is happening week to week in college basketball.
Yes.
But it's definitely not in the long term what we look at. What we look at is the net. What we look at is Ken Palm. What we look at is Bracket Matrix. What we look at is these predictive networks. But it's fun to look at. J-Man in the YouTube chat. Love our YouTube chat. Got the boys in here. Kenneth's in here. Captain's in here. Sith's in here. J-Man's in here. Wood's in here. PC's in here. Theo's in here. We got the Hall of Fame crew in here right now. J-Man goes, poll question. Do you have any gripes? I have a take. I have a pretty hot take.
A take?
I think I would rather win a bronze medal than a silver medal.
Interesting.
I was thinking about this over the weekend. If I were to win a silver medal, I wouldn't necessarily look at the silver medal and be like, oh my God, I'm a silver medalist. I would look at the silver medal and I would be very pissed that I didn't win the gold. Okay? I'd be like, what else could I have done? Did I not put in enough work? Did I not stay in the gym long enough? Did I not do enough sweeping drills for curling? Did I not ski down enough slopes? Did I not dump the puck in when I should have? Like I would think of all of the things I could have done to be the gold medalist if I won the silver. But if I won the bronze, I would just be like, hell yeah, brother. I'm an Olympic medalist. For the rest of my life, I would just be like, yeah, I want a medal. I went to the Olympics. I want a medal. No big deal.
Also, aesthetically, do you think bronze medals look cooler than silver medals?
Yes, I actually do. Great take, Peter.
And I
Krenzer.
actually would agree with that. I think that the bronze medals do look cooler.
Kenneth goes, you'd rather have lost earlier and not had a chance to play in the gold medal game. I'll just say this. If you win a bronze medal, you win on a win. You end the Olympics on a victory. You go, hell yeah. And if I lost that game, I would have been like, whoa, how? I mean, I'm not going to walk away with a medal. There's nothing worse with finishing 4th in the Olympics. Nobody gives a crap about 4th, right? So if you win a bronze, you finish on a win, you get your medal for the rest of your life. You are an Olympic medalist. But if you win the silver, you end on a loss. You end on a heartbreak. Yeah. Winning a gold was so close. It was within reach. I was right there. I was so close to being a gold medalist. I feel like that would hurt me more than I would be happy.
You also see a lot of people, you don't really see it with the bronze medalists. You see a lot of the silver medalists, they get the medal and then they just rip it off. They're like, I don't want it. Get it off of me.
And look, Kenneth goes, it's a consolation game. But like in a game where like hockey, where you don't have the chance, where you're literally a bounce away from holding the gold. Here's the thing. Consolation games in general don't really mean anything. But is it a consolation game when you walk away with a bronze medal? Right? If I'm at a youth hockey tournament, I couldn't give less of a crap if I finish in 4th, 5th, 3rd, 6th, 7th, 9th. Okay. But if I'm in a consolation game in the Olympics and it ends with me having a medal, it's still a medal. It's still incredible. It's still a hell of an accomplishment. I don't know. I just think that this is the spin zone of I'd rather have a bronze and end on a win and say I'm a medalist than as opposed to ending on a loss and always thinking about, wow, I could have had the gold. Am I out of pocket here, Peter Krunzer?
Let's throw up a poll and see what people think.
I feel like you have to have. I think you have to have a little bit of the explanation and the argument there. But I'd rather have bronze. That's my hot take. You can feel free to comment. You can call me an idiot. You can email me an idiot. You can do whatever you want. Matt at 1620 The Zone. That's the Equitable Bank inbox. Equitable Bank, they take banking personally. You can also text us at 402-951-1620. You can also call us on the Prairie Flower Casino hotline. Prairie Flower Casino. Play longer, win more. We are giving out tickets today, by the way. Omaha men's basketball is rolling. 2 wins in a row for the Mavs over the Denver Pioneers and the St. Thomas Tommies. They are back in action on Wednesday against the Oral Roberts Golden Eagles. We are going to send you to the game at 1:35 roughly after Robin Washington's interview. We will be asking you a question. You'll email us, and we'll go ahead and we'll give those tickets away to see the Mavs who are trying to defend their Summit League tournament title. You can see them in action. Paul Jobet, if you haven't seen him yet, must watch basketball. Coming up next, we talk about unwatchable basketball that hails from Manhattan, Kansas. We're talking about Clubber Tang going down with K-State. Here next on Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone.
Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone. Now back to Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone.
For those around the country who might work, in corporate America and 9-to-5 jobs, and they have those like team building outings and whatnot and all that stuff, and hey, let's all get together and do something fun. Maybe get ahead of the curve and start curling right now, because that's where you're headed. I'm here to spoil it for everybody after the boom of popularity that curling has seemed to have had this Winter Olympics, which it seems like at this point we are just on a 4-year process of curling just becoming popular out of nowhere. That's where you're going. Every corporate America business outing at this point is going to be some sort of curling activity, or maybe you'll do like a shuffleboard or something like that. But you're gonna, more than likely, you're in corporate America, you're curling this Christmas or this holiday season, if you will. So maybe get some stones, maybe get a sweeper, maybe just get some practice, because you want to perform here at the corporate business outings. Not that I've been to one of them, but in my prepper, I mean, literally at this point, I just golf for that one day when I do go to one of these golf outings, that I don't embarrass myself. Like, that's because you don't want to be the guy, like if you go to a corporate golf outing, and I'm not saying that you need to be, breaking 80 or have a plus handicap or be like absolutely insane at golf, but you definitely don't want to be the dude who's shanking everything everywhere and topping the ball and hooking things off the tee. You don't want to be Mr.
Everyone looking at you.
You don't want to be Mr. 105, right? You want to stay at these corporate golf outings. You want to stay in the box of like every fourth shot, you give your team a chance. Okay. Or here's what you do. Here's what I do. My insight, I'm stealing this from Zach Lowe, my insights to mediocrity. If you're in a 4-man scramble, okay, and you're with your buddies and you're at an outing or anything like that, always putt first. All right? Always be like, I want to putt first. Okay. Even if it's 5-foot putt, 10-foot putt, 15-foot putt, 20, putt first. Because if you make it, you always have a chance at making it. And then if you make it, you'd be like, hey, I contributed, right? 12-foot putt. There are probably your second or third best guy is going to be able to make that 12-foot putt. But if you go up there first and you hit it and you make it, you're the dude. And then if you miss it, Peter, you use this line. You ready? Well, I showed you the line. I had the right speed, right? I gave you. I was. If I didn't give it, if I didn't give it a good effort, I don't think Dale would have hit it. You got to think that way, right? If you're a bad golfer like me, if you're in the 88 to 95 range, how can I manipulate my 4-man scramble to claim as many shots as possible? Okay. Here's another one. Just if you're good with a 5-iron, like if that's your club for whatever reason, just say, hey guys, I'll poke one out there for you. And you can do that, hit it like 190. And then here's the line, Peter. Well, you boys let it rip, right? You let it go. We got one out there. You boys let it go, right? And then when they let it go and they all shank it into the woods, whose driver we use? This guy's, right? And we're like, well, if it weren't for me putting that 5-iron out there, we'd have to use a mulligan.
This is free advice, people.
Free scramble advice.
Free advice.
From a bad. Now, if you're just good at golf, you're not listening to anything I'm saying. You're just going up and you're just, you're popping it. You're helping your team out. You're actually winning games. You know who's not winning games? Kansas State basketball.
Ooh.
Clubber Tang, Jerome Tang, to be specific. Our sweet prince, our sweet man. Not really. 26-10 in his first season as Kansas State's head coach. Made it all the way to the Elite Eight. Put some, Jerome Tang inadvertently put a little pressure on some coaches, because of his ability to first season comes in, brings dudes from the transfer portal, makes a great run at K-State, gets some donor support because of the great run that he made. Like the dude turned up the faucet on some turn it up on some coaches, because you had other programs looking around the country being like, whoa, look at what K-State's doing. They hired this Jerome Tang guy. He comes in. He gets guys in the portal, immediately makes Kansas State a contender, gets them to the Elite Eight. He's now garnered this NIL support. Whoa. Why can't we do that? Like, why can't we? We've had a coach for 3 years, for 4 years. He hasn't been able to come up with the success that immediately Jerome Tang was able to create. He wasn't able to create the momentum that Jerome Tang was able to create. He wasn't able to get to the Elite Eight like Jerome Tang was able to do. And so one of those coaches you can make an argument for that maybe Jerome Tang inadvertently put pressure on with his immediate success at K-State was Fred Hoiberg. You definitely make the case that, Tang's first year and Hoiberg at this point hadn't made the NCAA tournament with Nebraska. You can make the case that there were people looking around in Lincoln, whether it be fans or others, and say, wow, they look at the success that Jerome Tang immediately had at Kansas State and his ability to recruit in the portal and get them to the Elite Eight. Why can't a place like Nebraska do that? Why can't we hire a first-year head coach that may not necessarily have the pedigree, but has the ability to bring in guys to the portal and make the tournament right away? But since then, since Jerome Tang has made the NCAA tournament and since they went to the Elite Eight, it has been absolute turmoil in Manhattan, Kansas. I mean, they, after making the tournament in the 2023-2024 season, they upped their transfer portal budget. They went and they got Coleman Hawkins. They went and got Core. They got Onyenso, and they went 15-6 and 9-11 in the Big 12 and didn't make the NCAA tournament. Right? And then they go ahead this year and they go, okay, look, disappointing season. We didn't do well in the portal. The guys that we thought would come in and be a massive impact didn't play to the level we thought. All right, we're going to re-rack it. Let's go ahead and get PJ Haggerty, who was an All-American from Memphis last year. Let's go ahead and reset the deck. Let's go ahead and let's have a good year. And they're 1-11 in the Big 12. And so Jerome Tang out at Kansas State. And basically what, the story of Jerome Tang is what happens when you don't hit on the portal and what happens when you put a lot of stock into the portal and things don't work out. Jerome Tang is a story of what occurs when you think you are the portal guy or you're the portal program, and then what do? You miss on the portal. And Jerome Tang missed on the portal too much in order to, win. And then on top of that, look at what he said. And this is where having a culture before you bring in portal guys is so important, okay? Because before Fred Hoiberg brought in Price Sanford this year, right? They had a culture, and that culture was led by Rink Mast. That culture was led by Sam Hoiberg, right? You had a locker room of guys who had been there before and had been together before and knew what the standard was. And so when you have culture setters like that guys come into the portal and they know immediately they have to play to that standard and they have to live up to the standard of culture that is built within the program. That's how you have healthy portal cycles. When you are just seemingly bringing in new teams in basketball every year and you don't have those original culture setters and you're just bringing in mercenaries, you get quotes from coaches along the lines of, they don't deserve to wear this jersey. You get a quote from coaches being like, we're going to take the last names off the jerseys. When you bring in transfer portal mercenaries that don't play to the coach's standard because the culture isn't established, you have a coach that says, not a lot of these guys are going to be wearing this jersey next year. That's what happens. So I think that, and we've had teams, and it isn't just Kansas State, but teams across the country in college basketball who invest a ton in transfer portal guys and invest a ton in players, but they don't have that prerequisite culture that they come into, and they don't really fit with the team, and they don't fit with the program, and they don't mold with the coach, and it creates a bad culture. And that's kind of what happened at Kansas State. They brought in guys and they worried so much about the dollar figures and they worried so much about the NIL and so much about the money that it didn't matter how talented they were, because they didn't have that chemistry, because they didn't have that culture, because they didn't have that standard, they failed. And it happened at Kansas State. It happened at Kansas State the last 2 seasons. It happened at Kansas last season. It's happening at Kentucky this season. It's just basketball is kind of one of those sports where the investment of money can be a great thing in terms of talent acquisition, but it also could be a double-edged sword of, how do guys fit with each other and how do guys handle that money and how do they build that chemistry? And, we've seen this a couple of times in both football and basketball where money creates envy, and you have dudes on the team who have been on the team, who have been with the program, who have helped build the culture, and then they find out that dudes that are being brought in from different programs are making more money than them. How does that affect the locker room? Right? It's happened in football. It's happened in basketball. It's happened in a bunch of different places. And Kansas State is a prime example of, okay, just because you have a lot of NIL dollars and just because you're able to get talented players like Coleman Hawkins and PJ Haggerty and, dudes who have competed and played at a high level in Power 5 conferences doesn't mean that they're the right fit for your program. And I think that's a lesson that a lot of coaches are learning, throughout the process in terms of transfer portal acquisitions. That, yeah, money's a factor and you want to get to, you got to pay guys certain dollar figures in order to get their services. But you also don't want the guys who are just there for the cash. You need to weed out the dudes who are just there for the bag and the dudes who actually fit your program. And I think Fred Hoiberg has done a phenomenal job of getting dudes who fit within the program. Rink masks. If we're going down the line of best transfer portal acquisitions across all sports from 2020 till now in Nebraska athletics, Rink Mask is up there. I think Jordy Ball, right off the bat, number one. Best transfer portal acquisition. I think Bryce Williams has got him in the conversation, all Big Ten first team last season. Rink hasn't gotten to that level. Granted, Rink Mask has done more winning than Bryce Williams has in basketball, so I think that could be a heated debate, Bryce or Rink. Jazz Shelley would have to be in that conversation, right, in terms of best transfer portal acquisition since 2020 for Nebraska athletics. There's definitely more that I'm missing from. I don't think anybody really from football immediately comes into mind.
Yeah, not really.
Which, by the way, here's another conversation I've had. It's interesting when you. And by the way, that'd be that might be a good crossover topic. The top 5 overall athletes that have been acquired from the transfer portal across all sports in Nebraska athletics since 2020. What are the top 5? I think I've named 4 good ones: Williams, Mast, Fromm, and Jazz Shelley. See what AJ Ferrari.
And it's good, well-rounded.
See what AJ Ferrari does in wrestling. If he wins a national championship, he would definitely be in that conversation.
That's a well-rounded top of the list. Different sports.
Well, you got. Impacts and effects, and
which is what you want. You want most of your sports hitting on those kinds of things.
Here's a weird one. Like, he'd be like in the top 15, but I don't know why Brett Sears immediately comes to mind. But he had one hell of a season 2 years ago coming from Western Illinois. So that's a pretty good one. But that'd be a fun topic. Great job from Nathan. Nathan hits it out of the park here. Merritt Beeson. Totally.
That's an oversight from us.
Absolutely on the top 5. Absolutely on the top 5. Be a fun topic though. It's funny. I was going through the results as a good little radio man for Nebraska sports over the weekend, and I noticed something. The Nebraska athletic department, killing it right now. Softball's beating 2 number 1 teams in the country. Wrestling is number 5 after they're number 5 in the country. They're coming off of a great dual win over number 20 Indiana, 34-5 was the result of that one. Baseball's won back-to-back Big Ten titles. They're playing first pitch against the Stanford Cardinal in about an hour and 18 minutes here. Have an opportunity to start the season 4-0. Should be a great start for this Nebraska baseball team, which over the Will Bolt era, they've kind of struggled at times to get off the good start.
Yeah, February's been tough for them.
That'd be big if they were to go 4-0 here. So back-to-back Big Ten titles for baseball. Softball right now is on the national scene. They're number 11 in the country. We'll see what they end up being ranked after they defeated the number 1 team in the country for the second time this season already in Texas Tech. Wrestling coming off their best season, arguably in program history last year. Have a really good team this year, number 5 in the country. Basketball having their best season, one of the best seasons in program history, on the verge of making history and winning an NCAA tournament game. You have volleyball, right? That's a wagon. Track and field has been really good as of late. Men's gymnastics is killing it for Nebraska football, or men's gymnastics is killing it in the athletic department. You have, teams like, or programs like Iowa State and others that are in massive debt, and they're cutting, programs, and they're getting rid of sports. What's the Nebraska athletic department doing? They're adding more scholarships, $2.5 million in scholarships. They're adding, women's flag football, right? They are in a healthy spot right now in terms
up to
of
25.
financials. They're investing a ton in sports. Your sports are competing at a high level. Softball at a high level, volleyball at a high level, basketball at a high level. Baseball has won back-to-back Big Ten tournaments, made back-to-back NCAA tournaments. Like, Nebraska athletics is cooking right now. I mean, they're doing a lot of really good things, and yet, like, it's the vibe I don't think is nearly as high, and I don't think all of those sports being great all at once gets enough recognition, because it always kind of falls back to how is the football team. And it's one of those things where if the Nebraska athletic department was a sundae, Nebraska football is the ice cream. If you have, mid to crappy ice cream, it doesn't matter how great the sprinkles are, and how great the hot fudge is, and how great the cherry is, and how great the peanuts are, and how, frothy the whipped cream is. Just to be like, man, it's okay. The toppings are great, but it's crappy ice cream. Now, if the ice cream was great, if the ice cream was incredible,
you could live with a few bad toppings.
You could live with exactly. You could live with a few bad toppings. You could kind of scrape off the peanuts. You can get rid of the hot fudge sundae. You can take the cherry off the sundae, and you could still say, okay, maybe the cherries aren't fresh, and maybe the whipped cream's a little old, and maybe the nuts are kind of stale. But you know what? That's a good sundae, because that ice cream is some of the best I've had. And it's just it's funny to kind of look at things that way. And I think it always will, like, how impressive the Nebraska athletic department is right now in terms of the strength of the products being put on the fields and on the courts and on the mats and all that stuff. Like, how impressive it's been. The vibe could be so much higher just solely based off, can football get it done? Can football figure it out? And I hope the football team recognizes that they are and always will be the heart and soul of the athletic department. And if they go, we go, They're like Dexter Fowler in the Chicago Cubs 2016 starting lineup. They set the tone. And so that's why this season and the next preceding seasons of the Matt Rule era will be so important, because if the football team were to be at the level that a lot of people wanted to be at, which is consistently competing, in the upper tier of the Big Ten and potentially competing year in and year out for one of those back half college football playoff spots, how healthy would the athletic department be? How fondly would we look at the athletic department? How strong would the athletic department be? It'd be incredibly strong, because all those other sports are killing it right now. Wrestling's killing it. Volleyball's killing it. Basketball's killing it. Softball's killing it. Baseball's been to back-to-back playoffs. Track and field's in the right direction. Even the sports that maybe not a ton of people pay attention to, they're doing well. And so it's one of those things where it's like, can't have a great Sunday without great ice cream. And Nebraska football is the ice cream of the Sunday. And they, it's if there was any other motivating factors for them, that is one of them, because it's hard to say that you're one of the best athletic departments in the country when your top earner and the team that has the most eyes on them isn't competing at a high enough level that you want them to. But at the same time, all the other sports in Nebraska athletics are doing a phenomenal job. And you can't take that away from the athletic department. You can't take away from the other sports at all. All righty. Coming up next, we'll talk a little bit of MLB, talk a little bit of NBA, take some more of your takes. We got some texts that we'll go ahead and read. Got a couple emails in the Equitable Bank inbox. Equitable Bank, they take banking personally. Don't forget, we're giving out tickets to Omaha men's basketball at 1:30 here. So don't forget that. On top of that, though, Robin Washut from Husker Online and On3 joins us at 1:20. All of that and more here on Middays with Matt.
None of that crap, man. These dudes got to have some They got some pride, man. They got some pride. It means something to wear a K-State uniform. It means something to put on this purple, man. Our like everything this university is about and all that it's been about. Why I love this place, man. Like they don't love this place, so they don't deserve to be here.
Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone. Now back to Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone.
429-551-1620. That's the Prairie Flower Casino hotline. You can call us there anytime you want. You can also text us at the same number, 402-951-1620. We go to the text line here from Dave. Sounds fun, but zero chance an employer is putting its employees on ice. Workplace injuries. Hashtag workplace injuries. He's talking about curling. Here's the thing. Walking on ice, it's not that hard. It's incredibly hard, okay? It's very hard. Very hard to walk on ice. Anything worth doing is, I'd say curling for recreation, worth doing if you're really into it. But that is the one thing that people don't understand when they're watching these people curl. Like it is hard ice that they are walking on. You fall on that, it is not forgiving. Falling on ice sucks. It does not matter where you're falling your butt, you're falling your elbow, falling your knee. It's terrible. I don't recommend it. I've done it basically for half of my life. And I've learned to walk on ice. Okay. It ain't fun. So Dave's kind of right. We'll probably have you serve as sign a form or something.
Maybe they could do that thing where it's like simulated ice where you can wear the socks. Some places do that. It probably wouldn't be as fun though.
I hate big guys.
And people would still fall though.
Aaron K. texting was about to say, if you have 4 golfers and nobody can put a driver in play, you have 4 bad golfers. That's a good point. I don't know. I love 4-man scrambles for like charity events and tournaments and stuff like that. Great time. Like very enjoyable. But if my buddy we were just out for a round and he just goes, hey, let's do a 4-man scramble today. Like if we were just playing at Shoreline or Iron Horse or any place like that. Like there's just zero chance. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do a 4-man scramble. That sounds like a very easy way to get mad at a bunch of people. Big Ten has taken a victory lap after Dusty May and the Michigan Wolverines were ranked number 1 in today's AP poll. It's the first time in 34 years that the Michigan Wolverines are the top team in the country, according to the AP, dating all the way back to the Fab 5 days. If you've never seen the 30 for 30 Fab 5, which I'm assuming a lot of people have if you're a very big sports fan, but at the same time, if you haven't, one of the best 30 for 30s out there. Also underrated 30 for 30s when we're just on the topic. Magic moment about Penny Hardaway.
Love that one.
O'Neal.
Love that one.
Hell of a 30 for 30.
I find the basketball 30 for 30s to be some of the better ones.
Now, not a 30 for 30, but something that I've been watching, and I'm not done with it yet, but I'm having a great time and very much enjoying it. It's the new Miracle on Ice documentary on Netflix.
I still need to watch that.
Yeah,
I need to check that
Go ahead
out.
and do that. The USA women's hockey team, 5-0 win today against Sweden. Absolutely dominant performance. They'll go ahead and play in the gold medal game, probably against Canada. I believe it's Switzerland and Canada, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Peter.
Correct. And that's at 2:10 today. So we'll know about 5:00.
USA men's hockey team plays tomorrow. They take on more than likely Sweden in the quarterfinal game. Sweden has not had the Olympic hockey tournament that we thought they would at the same time. The USA men's hockey team have gotten the results that they've expected in terms of winning their group. At the same time, probably haven't played the best hockey that we've expected from them. At this point, the firm favorites are Team Canada without a doubt. And unfortunately for USA men's hockey, they just don't have the speed on that roster that Canada does to take advantage of the Olympic guys. At the same time, Jordan Binnington has had a fine tournament so far for Canada, but we'll see what happens when that goaltender gets tested by the really impressive shooting and goal scoring that we've seen from the USA men's hockey team. Austin Matthews, 32 goals. JT Miller has been shooting the puck really well.
It's the goaltending and the defending where it's been a little more to be desired, but the attacking's been phenomenal.
Well, Swayman won't be in the net for USA men's hockey.
No,
and Connor Hellebuck.
Those preliminaries, you have a little more wiggle room because you're not necessarily going for goal difference because they just do the point system.
Hellebuck is playing. He's one of the best American hockey goalies of all time. He'll be fine. So we'll see what happens when the U.S. takes on more than likely Sweden. I believe that game will be tomorrow.
They'll do. I forgot that they have the format's a little different. They're doing the qualifiers tomorrow, so they'll have the 4 matchups to get into the quarterfinals, and then the quarterfinals will be on Wednesday.
Yeah, for men's hockey.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. So men's hockey taking a little bit of a break here, but women's hockey in the gold medal
moving
game
along
for the USA. Talking about women's sports, Iowa women's basketball is currently at Pinnacle Bank Arena taking on the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Nebraska women's basketball. I'm Big Fox right now. That game coming to an end. 2 minutes left. Nebraska down 78-59. As of yesterday, Nebraska on the Big Ten Network, they were projected to be a 9 seed. Has been tough sledding recently for Amy Williams' group. They've been losers of their last 4 games, about to be 5 games in a row in the loss column. You know, they had a tough stretch playing UCLA and Michigan State. That was a hell of a game that they played against Michigan State, and then followed up with that a tough loss to Wisconsin against Madison. You thought, all right, maybe they found their mojo back by defeating Illinois and Northwestern, but losers of the last 4 games. 4 of those 5 games that they're going to end up being losses came against ranked opponents. Nebraska women's basketball still has not beat a ranked team this season. So trying to find their stride is the Nebraska women's basketball team as the season closes down and we get closer and closer to Big Ten tournament play, and NCAA tournament play, with the hopes of them maybe closer to the bubble now and squeaking in an NCAA tournament berth after they're about to suffer a loss to Iowa. One team that has found their stride, though, is Nebraska baseball. They're 3-0 to begin the season. They take on the Stanford Cardinal today at 2 p.m. So we'll keep a track on that game. I bet USC and Mr. Slice of college baseball, Nick Grimm, I'm sure will be giving us updates on how Nebraska baseball is playing against Stanford. 3-0, though, to begin the season for the Nebraska baseball team. Throughout the year, we'll bring on a plenty of Nebraska baseball beat writers and announcers and whatnot to give you updates on how the baseball team is playing. One team that has found their stride most definitely is the Omaha men's basketball team. Big win over the weekend on national TV, by the way. They were on CBS, defeating the Denver Pioneers. That's 2 wins in a row for the Omaha men's basketball team, who's firmly put themselves back into the big picture in terms of the Summit League and playing some really good basketball with a legitimate opportunity to go back-to-back Summit League tournament champions and back-to-back NCAA tournament appearances. If you want to get in on watching the magical run Omaha can potentially go on into the NCAA tournament, we have an opportunity for you to get in on that.
Oh, baby.
Robin Washut will be on the show at 1:20 after his segment, which will be the last segment. So Robin's the second to last segment of the show, and the last segment of the show, we will give away Omaha men's basketball tickets. Okay, we'll give you a question. You'll email us the answer. You get the first person to get that question right, we are sending you to the Oral Roberts Omaha men's basketball game, which will take place this Wednesday. So stay tuned for that.
And that is the last home game of the season.
It is.
So it's a last chance to go see the guys in person before postseason.
Your last chance to see Paul Jobay and Valentino Simon and Brock Scholl and Jayshawn Glover and Tony Osborne. I mean, legends of Omaha men's basketball. Jayshawn Glover, Grant Stubblefield as well. Your last opportunity to do that. So stay tuned. After Robin's interview, we will give away those tickets for you to see the reigning, defending, and potentially back-to-back Summit League tournament champions. Coming up next, we'll get a little pro sport flavor. Are you mad that the strike box is going away in the MLB? Are you upset about it? We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about, NBA All-Star Game along with some more local updates. All of that and more here on Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone.
Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone. Now, back to Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone.
The 202 Texan. I've lost so many balls at Iron Horse. See, I like Iron Horse a lot. Played there twice. Had a great time. Now, I love our friends at Iron Horse. I do. But that 10th hole at Iron Horse, if you know, you know. Okay. It is a diabolical hole. You have to, so you tee off, and there's water there. So you have to tee off over water into a fairway, right? And then, if you're able to hit the ball straight enough to get it over the water and into the fairway, you then have to hit up a hill and through like a pretty small window. Okay, so you have to hit it fairly far and fairly high, get it through, and there's like branches and trees that are like creating this hole, like that are blocking the green. So you got to shoot through this gap. Then you get up there. Then you probably, if you're not a long hitter like I am, you need a chip from that, into that second fairway onto the green. And then it's a pretty big green, but it's not easy to punt on. It is a diabolical hole design in Iron Horse. Not that they're ever going to change it. And not that my bitching and moaning is going to do anything about it, but I feel like I just have to mention that Iron Horse, great course, one of the wildest holes that I've seen. Talking about things that are wild, Peter, you did a great job. I didn't even ask you to cut this, by the way. I'm trying to find my mouse here. Where is he?
Oh, I got it.
Is it over here? Here.
Yeah, there you go.
Did a great job cutting this, Peter. I want to play this clip from Jerome Tang because when I heard this, I was taken aback a little bit, but I didn't think it would lead to what it led to.
None of that crap, man. These dudes got to have some. They got some pride, man. They got some pride. It means something to wear a K-State uniform. It means something to put on this purple, man. Our like everything this university is about and all that it's been about. Why I love this place, man. Like they don't love this place, so they don't deserve to be here.
Okay, so then Tang, amongst that, said these dudes do not deserve to wear this uniform. There will be very few of them in it next year. I'm embarrassed for the university. I'm embarrassed for our fans, our student section. It's just ridiculous. We got practice at 6 a.m. tomorrow, and we will get this thing right. I have no answers and no words right now. I'm like pissed. Okay. So Tang had an $18.7 million buyout that he would be owed if they fired him without cause before April 30th. So they have basically said that those comments that Tang made to the media were embarrassing, right? And so this is what Kansas State's athletic director said. Their athletic director, Gene Taylor, said Friday or Sunday night. He said there's language in his contract that addresses certain things that can be potentially bring embarrassment. Taylor responded when asked to specify the reasons for Tang being fired for cause. Basically, this is what Taylor says. Basically, his comments about the student athletes and the negative reaction to those comments from a lot of sources, both nationally and locally, is where I thought we needed to make the decision. So Jerome Tang is going to lose out potentially on $18.7 million because he reamed his team in a press conference. And then those comments and that reaming brought negative publicity to the University of Kansas State. Peter Krenzer, there are so many other coaches who could be fired. Like if this like, and I don't dispute the fact that it was a little embarrassing for Kansas State to have Jerome Tang essentially say, our team doesn't want to be here. Our team doesn't want to wear this uniform. Our team is terrible. I understand from that perspective, like, that is kind of embarrassing that is publicly admitted by your head coach.
Yes.
At the same time, is it really is it really valid to fire the guy because he gave his honest thoughts about his team? That, by the way, is just as much as his fault as anybody else. I mean, Jerome Tang is the guy who coaches these guys. He's the guy who brought in these guys. He's the guy who makes all these decisions. Like, it's embarrassing for him as well. Is it really means for firing? Is it means for cause? Is it means to get rid of the guy? Does this now mean that if I'm a head coach in college sports, I can't no longer light a fire under my guy's butt, or I can't no longer be critical of my team in a public forum because I'm going to get fired? Like these are questions that I'm asking here. And I think that the ruling on this will probably have will probably set a precedent, honestly.
It will, yeah.
Right? Because
it's a unique scenario.
If Jerome Tang ends up being fired with cause because of his post game comments that quote unquote caused embarrassment to Kansas State, if I'm a coach, I'm first off going, do I have an embarrassment clause in my contract? Do I have that?
Did I read the fine print?
And secondly, if I do have that, I am now being I'm tight-lipped here. I'm making sure that I'm not, if I have honest negative thoughts about my team, I clearly am not going to state those things or say those things because it can lead to my firing. That is, it's very interesting that and to me, there was a report. So this is the Athletic article that I'm reading, right? This is by Matthew Ho and CJ Moore. They write, Kansas State is parting ways with Coach Jerome Tang days after he harshly criticized his player following a blowout loss, saying they did not deserve to wear this uniform. The firing was done for cause, Athletic Director Gene Taylor said Sunday night. In this article, it is mentioned that, it was mentioned that, so the Athletic reported on Thursday that Taylor had told Tang he would get another year as head coach. So basically, Jerome Tang was coming back. And I think it very much was in part because Kansas State did not want to pay him $18.7 million to no longer be their head coach, especially after
schools would not.
All of the money that they've invested in his roster and into the basketball program. And so I think that they were looking for a way to get out of this contract without having to pay him. And they think they have a good enough argument that these comments brought enough embarrassment to Jerome Tang for them to fire him. Once again, do I disagree with their sentiment that it was embarrassing for Kansas State to have their head coach say these things about the current iteration of their team? No, I don't. It was embarrassing. Is it means for the man to lose his job? I don't think so. I don't think it's means for him to get fired. Right?
But when you're looking for any reason.
No, I know. But do you know what I think is means for him getting fired? Him just being bad at his job. Like that's the mean to get fired.
Yeah.
Not because he publicly said he was embarrassed by his team. I don't know. I think it'll be very interesting to see, what how this all turns out into. Charles writes in, would your win-loss record be Charles is totally right. He goes, would your win-loss record be your embarrassment clause? Probably. Hey, we went 2-18. That's embarrassing. You're gone. I don't know. It's kind of strange. It's kind of strange how this all turned out, where apparently he wasn't going anywhere, and then a couple of days later, after some mean presser comments about his team, they decide, all right, we're gonna kick you out the door. We will see how that will unfold. And like you said, Peter, this will be probably a long process. As somebody used to always say, there will be lawyers. There will be lawyers when it comes down to Jerome Tang in Kansas State. But it'll be interesting if Tang ends up not getting his buyout. Probably see a lot of head coaches across the country be like, well, do I have that clause? And if I do, I ain't honest anymore. I love my team. We'll be back on the court. Don't worry about it.
I'll swallow my tongue.
Yeah, I'll swallow my tongue and then tell everybody behind the scenes how much I can't stand the roster that I created. Someone who isn't doing that right now is Fred Hoiberg. He's very happy with the roster and culture that he created because his team's 23-3. According to Joe Lunardi, they're a 4 seed in the NCAA tournament, which I have an issue with. But we will talk about that, all of that. Where does Lunardi have them? What is the outlook for the rest of the season? What does Robin Washut think of Nebraska basketball's win over the Northwestern Wildcats on Saturday? You'll find out next year on Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone.
Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone. Now back to Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone.
Middays with Matt here on 1620 The Zone. We welcome in an incredibly special guest from Husker Online and On3. It's Mr. Robin Washut. Robin, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing well. Beautiful Monday.
It is a beautiful Monday. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm waiting for this weather for us to go back to winter. You know, I feel like this false spring is taking too long.
Oh yeah, it'll be probably snowing here in about a week. So just sit tight. The weather will give you everything you want over the next few months.
Go to the range, go and golf. You know, take your walks. Maybe go to, if you have a good zoo in your area, you know, maybe go there and then just pack up tight for the rest of the winter and then come out in April. Somebody who won't be doing that though is Nebraska basketball. They're not packing up anything. They are ready and rolling right now. Let's talk about the Northwestern game. It was kind of weird. It was the second time this season that Nebraska basketball had played a team that they already had played before, the first time being against Illinois. It seemed like to me, Robin, that Northwestern, from a defensive perspective, was ready for some of Nebraska's tendencies a little bit. They were a little bit more prepared for some of Nebraska's tendencies than they were in the first game. But much like what they've done, honestly, the first time they played Northwestern, a bit of a sloppy and weird first half is followed by a dominant second half performance. Your takeaways from Nebraska's win over the Wildcats?
Yeah, I think they just eventually wore down Northwestern. You know, even though Nebraska was operating with pretty limited rotation, I thought that you know, once they stopped handing the ball to Northwestern, they were able to take that game over pretty well and got the offensive into a little bit of a rhythm. And Northwestern just really doesn't have the firepower right now. You know, they're running on fumes right now, and they look like it. You know, as well as they played defensively to kind of bait Nebraska into a lot of those turnovers in the first half. It just wasn't something they could sustain. And so Nebraska, I guess to their credit, you know, didn't let the kind of one offensive error and miscue after another impact, and not only get them frustrated to where they started forcing the issue, but then also didn't impact them on the other end of the floor, where I thought Nebraska's defense was good throughout. And that kind of let them navigate through some pretty sloppy first, you know, 20, 25 minutes. And then obviously Price Stanford doing what he did kind of just helped keep the waters calm until the offense figured things out. So, I mean, it was a game where Nebraska certainly didn't play its best ball, but they didn't let, you know, some really sloppiness, you know, throw them out of their game plan. They stuck with it, and eventually, like I said, once they cleaned up the turnovers, they took the game over pretty quickly. So it was a game that they were supposed to win big. They eventually did pull away and win big, and so I guess the box checked in that regard. But, you know, looking forward, especially tomorrow night, they got to play a lot cleaner because they're going to face some teams that have a little bit more gas left in the tank than Northwestern did.
So Braden Frager has taken 37 shots since he's returned from his ankle injury. So starting at the Illinois game, 27 of them have been 3-point attempts. What does that tell you about his comfortability at this point, getting to the hoop, coming off of that ankle injury?
Well, I mean, the first couple ones he came back, he just didn't have that burst. You know, the Illinois game for sure, and then I'm trying to think of the other games that he played. But anyway, like, he just didn't have that kind of first step that made him so effective before the injury. And so I think that's part of it. Like, he's still kind of working his way back. And really right now is kind of the tail end of that 2 to 4 week window that was originally given to him to make a full recovery. So he got back really quick and clearly was not 100%, but still good enough to play. You know, to earlier than expected. So I think that's part of the deal. And so you just kind of hope that as he continues to heal up, he'll get more confidence to get that, you know, more attacking mentality with the basketball, where he's getting to the rim, you know, making a more concerted effort to do that. And so I think part of it is he just doesn't have that burst. And so, but then I think the other part of it too is that's part of his role too. I mean, he's one of their better 3-point shooters, and Nebraska is a team that shoots a lot of threes. And, you know, I think he's had a lot of open looks. So it's not like he's like forcing the issue. I mean, some shots you could probably question, but, you know, for the most part, I think that, you know, he's taken in rhythm, open looks that you
Yeah.
want a shooter of his caliber to take. So it's just kind of a combination of things. But to your point, there's no question that he needs to, be more assertive and do more work off the dribble, in the paint, at the rim, because that's the one thing that he brings to the table that not really anybody else on the roster can do. And, it's an element that was clearly missing when he was out of the lineup, and then especially in these games where, he just didn't have that part to his game back yet. That's I think helps make Nebraska a more complete offense. And so while you don't want to tell him not to shoot threes just because he's a good shooter, you also want to see him not settle too much to where he's just hovering around the 3-point line, because again, he's too important with his size, physicality, and athleticism in the lane and at the rim to totally remove himself from that part of the game.
Yeah, it's one of those things where Nebraska, without the contributions or big contributions of Braden Frager, is still a good team. But with his contributions and with him playing at his highest level, they become a great team. And they become that team where we start having that Elite Eight and maybe even Final Four conversation. So you're right on. I mean, his involvement as an offensive player will be very important for their long-term success. Tired is asking Robin Washut about rink masks and whether or not he's going to bounce back from having a tough slate. Wired, though, is what I'm going to ask you. And maybe it's a weirder question, but maybe you've noticed the same thing. Are you concerned at all about Bear K? I just feel like we haven't gotten the same contributions from him in this part of the season as we were in the beginning part of the season. I mean, very early on, he was in many ways the heart of this team and, the showman and a fan favorite. And I feel like that's been lacking from him for the last couple appearances.
I mean, I guess offensively maybe, but I think defensively he's as valuable as anybody, not named Sam Hoiberg, just because he's their best post defender. And, that Northwestern game, there's a reason that he was part of that lineup that flipped the switch. They were down 3, and Berke was a huge part
Great point.
Nebraska taking things over. And so he had 3 block shots, and he protected the rim. And, they'd be swatting Nick Martinelli in the rim. So like that I think is what he does. And, his role has always been something that's like, you're not always going to see his value in the final box score. And yes, his offense, you would like to have more from a player that plays as many minutes as he does. But I think defensively, his value has kind of maintained throughout the season. He just, he brings that element to Nebraska's defense that, no one protects the rim better than him. No one kind of blocks out on defensive rebounds better than him. And so like he just does a lot of things that are really hard for Nebraska to simulate without him on the floor. And I think, again, there's a reason that, you ask the players after the game about that stretch where I believe it was Sam, Cale, Braden, Price, and Berke, like what that group was able to do.
Great point.
And all of them to a T said it was Berke setting the tone inside. And, any time that they had a lapse defensively, he was always there at the rim to contest anything Northwestern put up. So, he's an interesting guy because obviously he has some highs offensively, but he also has some really bad lows, and I think that gets a lot of the attention. But what doesn't get seen enough, and what his biggest contribution to this team is on the defensive end, and the way that he protects the rim and defends the paint better than anybody on Nebraska's roster.
And you're totally right too. Like I've had this conversation with a guy on the team, and you say some things about Berke offensively, and immediately they go, but dude, what he does on the defensive end, and you're right, it goes beyond the box score. Look, I know a lot of people, and this is kind of, maybe you save this for some of your tunnel talk stuff, and the great article that you write about some of the insights in and around the program. But I know there's a lot of focus, and rightfully so, on the season right now and the games that they have ahead, and them having a strong close to Big Ten play, and hopefully, creating momentum that can lead into the NCAA tournament. But, are there any conversations right now or concerns right now about keeping some of these guys together because you have, some guys that maybe you didn't anticipate would have as great of a seasons as they have, but they're going to be very, very wanted when it comes to transfer portal seasons, and other teams are very much going to try and poach them from Nebraska. Are there any concerns or look aheads, to the offseason from his coaching staff or anyone around the program at this point?
Yeah, I mean, concern maybe is one word for it, but certainly a priority is retention. That's by far the biggest goal going into the offseason. They want to keep as much of this nucleus that is set to return on board as they can. And Price and Braden obviously top that list. Berkay is in that conversation as well. Kale is in that conversation as well. And then obviously the freshmen that are still in the ranks coming up. So, I mean, I think that they feel like if they can bring back the majority, if not all, of their potential returners, they're going to be in a really good spot to keep this thing kind of rolling the way it is right now, with just kind of supplementing as opposed to having to totally rebuild. But, unfortunately with success, the old saying is yesterday's price is not today's price. And so, guys, Price is going to get more, looks. He's going to have professional opportunities. Braden Frager's obviously going to get called. He's already being called by, or not, maybe not him, but his representation's already being talked to about, potentially seeing what his situation is going to be next year. So that's just kind of the landscape. When you're good, people want your players. And especially when you got young guys that, might not be making what others at, some of the blue bloods out there that have more roster budget at their disposal are making. And that's something Nebraska's going to have to combat. I think they're going to get a little bit more from the rev share budget. At least that's what Troy Dannon says. I don't know how much more. He says significant, but nobody knows what significant really means. And then from an NIL standpoint, it sounds like Nebraska's supporters and boosters are ready to step up and, contribute more to help Nebraska, stay competitive, not just in retaining their roster, but going out and getting some difference makers to replace Rick Mast, Sparks Lawrence, Sam Hoiberg, and the like. But again, that's to be determined. We don't know. Like, the checks haven't been written yet. Everybody says they're going to do it, and Nebraska's going to have the money, and that paying for players won't be an issue in terms of why a player decides to stay or leave. But that's just kind of one of those deals where when it comes time to make those guarantees and make those promises that the support that everybody says is going to be there when it matters. And I expect it will, but that's just kind of one of those things that kind of hovers over a program like Nebraska that is already trying to play Moneyball, even within their own league, against teams that are spending 3-4 times more money on their roster than Nebraska is. Like, that's just kind of a hard hill to climb, especially now that everybody's looking at their players. When you're a top 10 team, it's that makes that challenge even more daunting for Nebraska. But they say that they're going to be able to do enough to keep the majority of this roster, but time will tell on that one.
I'll go ahead and final question for you here, Robin Washington of Husker Online and On3. I read this article from your publication from On3 that interviewed and talked to some executives and coaches across college basketball who basically relayed the sentiment of, we don't know if we want to fully invest in guys like Darren Peterson, and we don't know if paying college basketball players $4 or $5 million is really the best investment, because it hasn't worked out for some of the teams with the top budgets across the country. How much do you think that conversation about spending less or spending smarter on college basketball teams is as much about Darren Peterson as it is about what Nebraska basketball is currently doing with what you mentioned, one of the lower budgets in the Big Ten, and yet very much on the door of being a 2 or 3 seed?
Yeah, I mean, I think Nebraska's certainly an outlier in what they've been able to accomplish with the resources they have at their disposal. And that makes kind of like Indiana football. Like, why can Indiana do it? Why can Nebraska do it? So, there's some schools that ask that question, but I also think, part of your question, it's not about teams needing to spend less. I think they just need to spend smarter, because there's teams that are paying guys a lot of money that it's working. Like, for every Peterson situation, you have a Braden Smith who's making $2+ million or whatever, and he's they devoted a ton of resources to retaining him, but it kept arguably the best point guard in college basketball on their roster, and they were able to have the continuity that Matt Painter has thrived on, and now Purdue is very much back in the thick of things. And so there's different ways you can go about approaching the portal, and I think teams are learning the hard way, at least have been learning the hard way, that when you go out and just try to Kansas State it and spend a bunch of money on a bunch of mercenaries and don't put much thought into how they're going to work as a team, well, you're not going to get much results. And so you still have to spend money to get top players. Like even Nebraska, like Price Sanford's going to cost money. Braden Frager's going to cost money. Like that's just the reality of when you have good players on your team and you have success, the price inherently goes up. But I think that the key is spending what you need to spend to get top players while also being extremely mindful of how every player you add and retain fits together as a cohesive group. I think culture and team continuity is probably re-emerging as just as valuable as going out and getting the most stars you can get out of the portal. I mean, like Kansas State's an example. Like Washington, they've got a ton of money. They've got one donor that writes a $5 million check to men's basketball. That's like more than Nebraska's entire roster budget. And look at where Washington is.
Yeah,
like that's kind of there's examples of teams that spend big money but do it the right way.
Yeah,
aka Michigan. And then there's also schools that spend a lot of money but they don't do it the right way. And it's kind of like setting their money on fire. So like that's kind of the fine line that every school in the country is trying to walk right now, is where you have to be able to pay to get and keep your best players, but you also need to be smart about how and who you're spending that money on.
Well, you hit the nail right on the head, right? You got to have a culture before you bring in these mercenaries, right? You got to have guys who can set the tone and set a standard that they work to. And who's to say if all these transfers from Nebraska work out the way that they do if you don't have a guy like Rink Mask and Sam Hoiberg who set that culture for the team, And I question whether or not teams like Kentucky and teams like Kansas State and last year's Kansas team, all examples of teams who spend a ton of money who aren't successful. I question whether or not they have guys like that who set that standard. So it's very well said from you, Robin Washut. As always, at 1:20 on Mondays, you join us here on Middays with Matt. Very thankful for that. We will talk to you soon, my friend.
Sounds good, man. Talk to you later.
Robin Washut, Husker Online and On 3. Coming up next, we give you what to watch and our dog of the day and wrap up Middays with Matt here on 1620 The Zone.
Middays with Matt on 1620 The Zone. Now back to Middays with Matt on 1620 The Soul.
Alrighty. Real quick, this week's zone half off deal is Timber Creek Pizza Pub and Grill. This deal is for two $25 for only $25. So located at South 178th Street in Omaha, Timber Creek Pizza Pub and Grill serves pizza with an unforgettable pizza sauce and fresh ingredients and unique combination of bold flavors. You can listen all week to the Happer and Schaefer Show for a chance to win $50 worth of gift vouchers. Okay, here we go. We are going to go ahead and give away some tickets to Omaha men's basketball.
Oh, baby.
Here's how we're going to do it. Third caller, 402-951-1620. If you're the third caller, you get the first shot at winning tickets to the Oral Roberts versus Omaha men's basketball game. Where Chris Crutchfield, the coach of Omaha men's basketball, the leader of the team that won the Summit League regular season title and the Summit League tournament yesterday or last season. Where did Chris Crutchfield come from? Where was his final place of work before he became the Omaha men's basketball coach? What college was he coaching at right before he became the Omaha men's basketball coach? Third caller to call in, Peter Krenzer, will pick it up and tell you whether or not you got it right. All right, Peter, before you have to pick up the phone, what are we watching tonight?
It's a relatively light slate.
Okay.
We've got a basketball doubleheader on ESPN. We got Syracuse Duke starting it off at 6, and then followed by that's a pretty big one in the Big 12. We got Iowa State
Iowa State's taking on Houston. That game's at 8 o'clock on ESPN.
Refreshed right when I was about to do that. So yeah, that'll be the second part of the doubleheader. I like these Big 12 Monday night games.
They're always fun.
They're good. And then primetime Olympics coverage starting at 7 on NBC. That is what we've got. Oh, and the calls are now coming in.
No, you're good. You're good. There's only one call in. Continue. Give us our last thing, and then we'll go to Dog of the Day.
That was really it. We just had the because we have got one other basketball game on ESPNU. Not a heavy slate on this Monday. We got some good ones tomorrow though.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Peter.
All right, folks, let's talk right now. I'm going to kill your bookmaker. I'm going to rip his throat out. I will blow this man out. I will step on his throat until the man chokes. Let me tell you how. Dog. Winners. Dog. Winners. Dog. Winners. Dog. Winners. Dog. Winners. I'm on a roll.
Dude, you got to love dogs, right?
All right. Dog of the Day. Did not go well over the weekend. We gave you all dogs for NASCAR. None of them ended up winning. Oops. Sorry. Here's our Dog of the Day. It's the game of the Houston at Iowa State. Kelvin Sampson, he's got his boys rolling. Look, it's just hard for me to bet against Houston, and I even love it when I'm betting on them, and they're an underdog, plus 124 to win tonight. Houston, our Dog of the Day. Thank you so much for listening to Middays with Matt. The regular crew, Josh O and myself, will be back in the saddle tomorrow. USC in the crossover coming up next here on 1620.
One caller, no one was there. Static.
Oh, if we don't give it up, we give it away.